Hello, welcome to
Hello.
the Yowie Shelf. Grab a seat and relax. It is so early. I already gotta love y'all. We love you too.
We haven't even done anything yet. I love it.
I know, right? We are so blessed to have Ari, also known as Queerioes, back for our live. They
Yes.
so graciously agreed to join us on live, which is our first time actually having a guest on live, and so very, very blessed that it is. Ari, welcome back to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. I
Hi.
feel so welcomed and honored.
Oh, we sent you a diploma. Like, I don't know what else we need to do.
Like, do you feel the love?
I do. I
Yeah.
have the diploma. We're already looking for a frame for it.
Oh, yay. That brings me so much joy.
I love it.
Uh,
It was amazing.
I don't brag about stats like usually in public, but like this has honestly been one of our best received episodes, one of our highest ranking, and one of the most talked about. And those are all things that make me very, very happy as a host. So glad that you made it to this live. Uh, because I'm guessing that, to get to the heart of this, hello, hello, that people
Hello.
really have a lot to say about this topic. And that a lot of people aren't really talking about it, I guess, in a way that is still critical, but isn't either just pandering or screaming.
Yeah.
Because it feels like
It affects a
it feels
lot of
like it's
people.
either, yeah, it's either pandering or screaming. Let's be very, very honest.
Yeah.
Uh, so I love that we did this episode. I'm so glad that we got to do it with Ari, who is literally brilliant. Um,
You
That
are.
imposter syndrome sets in real
No,
deep.
no, no, no. You're not allowed. You're
I know, I'm not
yeah,
allowed, I'm not allowed.
you're
The
a force
void
of
knows
nature.
all.
hello, hello.
Hello.
Uh, Lots of comments today. I hope that means that you guys brought questions because we need to put Ari to work.
Yep. Yes, please.
Have to
Yes, we
put
have
it
we have a
to yeah.
brilliant guest. We need to put Ari to work. So lots of questions, lots of engagement. We already had some great discussion over in the YouTube comments. And one thing I did want to talk about that I saw in the YouTube comments a lot, which is not my crown or the LEDs on my chair, even though I'm obligated to bring both of those up, or the yards of Japanese kimono cotton that I have behind me. None of those things I want to discuss.
You just want to brag about them.
No, I just wanted to make sure that everyone saw. I just wanted everyone to know this
Okay.
is what I do for you to be pretty. Uh, Judgmentally slurps
But
coffee.
the crown is
Uh,
perfect. The crown belongs there. It needs to be in every live.
there's more than one.
Yes.
You should put them both on.
Oh my
Just be
god, both
extra.
buns, like Sailor Moon
That's too much
buns.
power. I
Yeah.
can't put both on.
Crowns.
I also feel like they would just like clack into each other the entire time. It'd just be very, very distracting. But next time I'll put. I actually both of these artists. If you guys are curious, I'll tag them in notes. Both of these artists do custom crowns. I'm about to fuck shit up. I am about to
Oh
fuck
my
shit
god.
up with these crowns. Uh,
You need
but
a
one
yaoi
comment I
crown.
saw. What does that even look like? Is it just phallic?
I don't know, maybe I don't know. Maybe I was just thinking I'm basic, so I was just thinking a crown with yaoi printed across it. But
Oh, I'm
you could
thinking like
add the little stones could be phallic shaped.
yeah,
Like
because I was thinking Catherine the Great's penis chair.
yeah, okay, you saw that too. There was a recent video going around about I think it was, oh my god, I'm probably gonna get this wrong, but I believe during a war, whichever invading soldiers there were, they came into the
Mm-hmm.
castle,
Mm-hmm.
and they found this room, and they were so shocked that
Mm-hmm.
they literally stopped invading to take pictures.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's great.
because it's a penis
Th-
chair. Like, what
But
else do
this
you
is why
Yeah,
do?
she's the great, you know?
yeah, exactly.
That's why.
Yeah, and she did not have sex with a horse.
No, she did
She
not.
did not,
So
but
you
she
need to
did
get
die on
her.
the toilet.
Oh, that sucks. But I mean, how many people
Happens to the
have at
best
that
of us.
point? You know?
A lot, honestly.
Yeah.
I was shocked that they honestly had toilets, but then like my brain does that like weird like Western thing of like, oh,
Right.
you guys have technology, amazing.
How
And
old is
like,
old? Yeah. Like, what
but
did they have? What did they not have?
right. But one comment that I saw a few times was and this is something I'd love to get y'all's opinion on is this sort of hesitancy to fully align yourself with pro ship as well, because there has
Right.
been
Oh,
some
yeah, yes.
pro ship fuckery. That is a pun, I'm assuming. And if it is a pun,
Ah,
double points. I'm hoping it's a
great.
pun, double points. But as a fact, yes.
Yeah.
But there has been some concern about calling yourself a pro shipper as well, just because there has been some pro ship fuckery, and that is one thing I will say that we didn't really talk about in the episode, mostly because I was tired when I wrote the outline, and because I was tired when I wrote the outline.
But I mean,
But
we
I
talked a
do.
lot.
Yeah,
In
We
the
talked a lot about
we've run
everything
through
else.
a lot of
We
things that
did.
weren't necessarily on topic.
Right. So I do definitely want to address that, like, yes, on the pro ship side, there has absolutely been some fuckery, but and I made this allusion in the comment section that it sort of feels like especially like when trans women uh yes, I was right. It sort of feels like when trans women are confronted by a lot of TERFs when they just like, well, women are women because women, and like that answer sounds really dismissive and like mean, but like at that point they've been attacked so much with like this essentialism argument about like what makes a trans woman a woman. And I'm by no means conflating the trans experience to shipping fictional characters. I'm not doing that. But it just sort of feels like that. Like by the time you've been pecked so hard that like you just don't have any arguments anymore. So you do kind of just do what the bad guys are doing. And that's not an excuse. I just think that that's a reality of where we are.
Although
Thoughts?
trans fans are having that experience because of this, because of
Mm-hmm.
um, because of this very hateful sort of and active, I don't know, I'm looking for words here like a thesaurus, divide
Mm-hmm.
between anti-ship,
Mm-hmm.
pro-ship. One of the things
Mm-hmm.
flung at I can only speak from seeing a certain view.
Mm-hmm.
Pro-ship side, I have seen people who are typically FTM, trans
Mm-hmm.
men, trans mask,
Mm-hmm.
even maybe
Mm-hmm.
non-binary, and
Mm-hmm.
and we've all seen this, the things that are being said to them as if misgendering them,
Mm-hmm.
blatantly misgendering them,
Mm-hmm.
saying that they're dirty Fujo and they're not really trans, or they're my most hated sentiment that I see on here is your trans or queer card has been revoked,
Oh yeah.
depending on what they say. Your card has been revoked, that because they have read BL at some point. It's just so there's a lot of transphobia happening. But
Let's
in
go.
terms, yeah, in terms of pro ship, anti ship, I actually don't use any of the labels. Well, obviously I don't use anti, but like
That would be a
that would
sign.
make for an interesting interview.
What talk about the long con that like this would be like actually I was an anti
Right.
all along. Discard.
Surprise!
What a day
Oh, what
to
is
come
that
out of the
TikTok?
closet.
Surprise, shorty. Like,
Yeah.
but like, it, yeah, no. So, I've actually never used the label. Obviously, my stance definitely aligns, I think, mostly with this pro ship idea. I don't actually really know everything that pro shippers by label are using to identify themselves as pro shipper. I think for the most part, the people I know who are calling themselves pro shipper are it's the basic identifiers, ship and let ship. There might be some more in there. I have not delved deeply into this. I have seen anti-censorship. I think that came up on the pro ship sort of realm
Yeah,
of
I
people.
have seen a little bit of that.
Yeah, that one I am anti-censorship, but like at the same time, I don't want to. I'm not okay with hateful symbols
Mhm.
existing and being in fan art, and like I don't think those should be replicated. I think we
Mhm.
should leave them out of our history as much as possible. Make a note of these people are horrible. Now let's talk about the victims in extent. Like, let's talk about the victims. Let's
Yeah,
talk
I
about
can
their stories. Let's
definitely.
talk about their survivorship. That kind of thing in terms of
Okay,
history.
so I do like that model because I do feel like, especially coming from a Western viewpoint, we do spend a lot of time talking about those that are fighting versus those that are affected by the fighting.
Right.
Like points in the direction of any World War II conversation going on right
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
We
Yeah,
focus we
exactly.
focus a lot on like, well, let's look at Germany and let's not pay attention to any of the people that were
Yeah,
affected by what was
exactly.
happening. But
Well,
okay, I like that.
you were in
Yeah,
Texas and I was in Georgia when we
yeah.
grew up. So, our history education was
Remember,
interesting, which we
the
talked about
slaves
before.
enjoyed it, and everything is fine.
Yeah, like I know when I was in high school, I was privileged and lucky enough to go to a private school for high school.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I got some teachers that weren't from Georgia. And
Oh.
so I had one teacher for world history who was not from Georgia. But then my, like, I guess US history teacher was from Georgia. And I was like, well, that didn't work out
Mm-hmm.
really well. But, like when they're talking about things like Civil War and stuff, it's like, in
Right.
Georgia, they talk about the poor South and the poor,
Yes.
Confederates.
Yes.
And I was sitting there kind of like, okay, but aren't we missing something? Like, why does this feel like as little me was like, why
My
does this feel
absolute favorite.
spotty? Where are we missing stuff?
My absolute favorite is not calling it the Civil War, but the War of Northern Aggression.
Wow.
Oh,
Okay.
God.
Okay, that's a narrative.
The War of Northern Aggression.
Oh, my God.
Like the South did nothing wrong.
Of
Yeah,
course
that was
not.
always the narrative. The South did nothing wrong.
If you
God.
ever want a great, moment of like decisions were made, none of them were good. There's a video that John Oliver had shared, but like there's a full version on YouTube where it's this
Oh, cat.
guy. It's yes,
Sorry.
that's Sansa. No, it's okay.
Sansa.
It's at one of those like tear down Confederate monuments rallies, and there's a white guy holding a Confederate
Yeah.
flag and a black guy who's there. And the white guy is yelling, "It's about our heritage. We were fighting to protect our farm." The black guy turns like, "Who was working that farm?" And like that enough should be
Hmm.
like, "Ooh." Ooh. And then white guy turns around, somehow makes it worse, and it's like, "We were poor. Do you have any idea how expensive you were back then?"
Wow. Okay.
And the whole conversation is just
Corolla's getting. Hi, Corolla. Welcome to the constant U.S. dialogue of, God, Jesus.
Stairs
I
in European.
Stands in
I feel like I don't think. Well, I mean, we just don't even acknowledge y'all. Like, I don't think we learned anything about
No, we don't
anything.
exist.
Yeah, like in Hitalia, we just now got the rest of the UK. So Japan
Well,
clearly doesn't care.
my whole point was on that. People like to slip in hate when they're on
They
their
do.
pro and anti-ship stuff, and when it comes to just unconditional anti-censorship, no, I don't believe in that, because I believe in things like BLM and CRT, and these are the things that I want and that I like, that I would like to see. I would actually like to see things be addressed. So
Would be
I don't
nice.
I don't want to
Yeah.
see I don't want to uplift hate symbols. We should already
Yeah.
know this at this point. There's no use in
Yeah.
that. But
And I can kind of agree with you. Like, I definitely think that like my methodology, and probably Corolla agrees with me a little bit, is that I'm probably in a pretty similar boat, because remember, this is about naval combat, where I definitely don't agree with any of the negativity that anyone who's pro ship has done,
right, we have
but
to
I
address
definitely align more with pro ship as I am
Yeah.
an old whore.
it.
Yeah, basically. I think,
Because I am an old whore.
but I feel like it's also, like one of those things where, people are projecting so much,
Absolutely.
and you think that your idea of what the term means or your definition aligns with everyone else's definition. So, if I call myself pro ship, literally what I mean is, ship and let ship, and anti censorship, as in we shouldn't censor things that are, quote unquote problematic in the sense that, oh, this ship is bad or this is immoral or whatever. But I absolutely agree on, things that I consider to be, basic knowledge, like that doesn't pertain to, hate symbols, for instance, or
Yeah.
racism or those types of things.
I'm
Like, I
glad
feel
that we're
like that is,
taking I'm glad that we're taking stronger stances, considering that last episode we were pretty like on the fence about genocide for a minute. So I'm glad that we're taking stronger
Yeah,
stances here today. We were a little wishy washy on genocide last episode.
was that, I
Oh
can't
my
even
god.
remember the context. Was that the episode? Or was that the Patreon thing?
That
I
was
can't
the
remember.
okay. So I've been chipping away at this transcription for the better part of a week and a half.
Oh yeah.
My brain has absolutely melted into my ear canal. This
I'm
is
sorry.
2.5 hours.
Oh my god.
And it
I
feels
was
like
just
Why would you
cackling.
ask for help?
because that's what the weak do.
Okay, calm down, Dad.
Curl is like, so we'll talk about that in therapy.
Because that's what the weak do.
No, I just got confused because we did the whole pairing thing for the Patreon special,
did.
and
It
I was
was
talking about
very,
the
very
Uchiha,
fun.
and
Yes.
the Uchiha, that was also a kind of genocide. I realized, and I was like, different.
Yeah, it was
But yeah.
it was a bit of a genocide. Also, for our patrons, this is very funny. I did end up wearing the Byakuya shirt today.
Oh yeah,
This is new after my aunt for
I
Christmas
love
got me.
it.
My aunt got me like an anime thing, and it's like, how did you manage to find the one thing that I don't like?
Oh no.
She got
Oh
me
dear.
Demon Slayer stuff, and it's like, how did you manage to find the one? Shit, I would have even accepted Boku Waka because I'm still like Tsundere closeted fan about that. Like,
I feel
I
like
would have
you're
accepted that.
you're gradually leaving that closet.
I'm still pretty deep in it because if I see Deku do anything else, I'm hitting him with a frying pan.
You'll get there.
I don't think I will.
Yeah.
I really don't. I really like watching him get flung into buildings. That's nice. Is that not the point? Am I supposed to
Seems
want
like the
him to
point.
win?
But it's a shonen. Of course, it's the point.
Oh, okay.
I mean, people
Does
are
it-
supposed to.
Does it get gayer? Because it's already pretty gay.
I'm not reading the manga, but I'm gonna say yes.
Okay.
I'll say it'll get as gay as your perspective will make it. So it
Okay.
can get
Oh,
gayer.
So really
Oh
gay. then.
yeah, it's on.
Okay.
Go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go.
Deku Bull, Deku Bull, Deku Bull. Let's go.
Oh my god.
Corolla.
You know,
Corolla, when your cat appeared, he summoned my cats, and now he's over here sniffing my camera.
that's what he does.
I do love cat summoning, but yeah.
He's literally
yes.
been in his shark all day, and then we started recording, and he was like, "Hello, I, I need to be here."
I do love his shark, but yeah, ask us lots of questions. Otherwise, we'll just keep ranting because
yeah,
we're
we can just talk
three
about
elder-
it. Yeah, I mean,
three
like
elder
Corolla
people
was
will
saying.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
No, you had a point. You had an actual point.
Oh, no, what Corolla was saying was, I mean, yeah, that's pretty much where I am. I don't really use the label often because, I mean, I'm non-binary. I don't like that many labels anyways. So I'm just kind of like, like gender voids. I'm like, my labels get sucked into a black hole. But like, when it comes to it, yeah, like I just say, oh yeah, ship, let ship. But I also like to, I like to address things. I mean, we should always be talking about media. Oops,
Oh, yeah.
computer. We should always be talking about media and like,
Absolutely.
or else why would we wouldn't get discussions as wonderful as self-lubricating buttholes and like we get to talk about these things when we're talking about things we see in media. Let's talk about them. So I
Absolutely.
noticed there's a lot of pro shippers in the area who are right up there for talking about things we see in media. Let's be critical of media. Let's also enjoy media. And let's talk. They're willing to talk about it. What they're not willing to do, well, I can't say that because I think I've seen it, but what they're not willing to do, I think for the most part, is harass people over a ship. Although I do see people get into on both, like antis and pro shippers really going at each other sometimes. And I'm like, y'all need to step away.
Yeah, like there's
we
definitely
need a community therapist.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, just because I haven't seen it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Like police violence in
Exactly.
America, just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean it's not real.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
This podcast is still ACAB, but
Yes.
but you're right. I haven't really seen that, which again doesn't invalidate it, but it does sort of. it makes that conversation more interesting to me. And it honestly, like one of the examples given was like, oh, like forcing, aunties to look at, explicit matter. And it's like,
Uh,
this isn't like, so when I was in high school, I had a lot of like older guy friends just like open up their hentai Bibles and show me a lot of explicit stuff when I was underage.
I was that person.
Interesting.
But yeah.
Like I had that a lot. Like I had a guy like, oh, you like Inuyasha, right? And I'm like, yeah. And it's like, ah,
Oh no.
I'm
I
14
was
years old. I don't know what any of this is. Like, ah.
I did not get to see the full blown hentai and everything from friends until I was in college. I was closet wee because no one in that school that I went to in Georgia ever it was basically Christian prison. It
No,
was bad. So
I
like
was
we
very,
we
very
were we were closeted
charismatic.
about anime as well. I only found out one of my friends who also came out as trans later.
Do you think there's a connection? It's
We always find
Yes.
each other. I found every single queer person in that school, and I didn't even know it. Well, I knew two of them because they told me, but like,
Mhm.
I make people question their gender. But like, I found out later that my trans friend at the end, graduation day, was like, "Have you ever heard of anime?" And I'm like, "Yes." So
Oh my
we
god.
found each other, but that was it. No one really talked about it.
Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think it's important to hallmark on that. Like, while I'm sure this fuckery is happening, what I was getting to with that
Oh yeah,
is
sorry.
uh, that it feels like it's a lot harder to do stuff like that online. Like, have I absolutely been exposed to things that I wasn't expecting to on the internet? Yeah, but like, you have a lot more agency online than you do, I think, anywhere else. So this whole idea of
Yeah.
like, and this is something with aunties that I'm still like very on the fence about. It's like, oh, I was forced to see this Omega verse. Like, I mean, you can leave.
Yeah.
No one's like
Yeah.
a clockwork oranging you to look at Omega verse. And if they
I
are,
have
like, that's a very
definitely run
different
across things
scenario.
I didn't like, and I would just be like, nope. Even like little me, I'd be like, no, I'm not into this.
Yeah,
This is
exactly.
this is an incorrect opinion, but I'm willing to let you have it.
Yeah,
This is an incorrect opinion.
I never,
I
I
honestly,
I don't think it ever crossed my mind actually. I don't think I ever, okay, I'm gonna sit here and think about this. Baby me, baby fandoms. I mean, my first like fandom interaction with people was Prince of Tennis and LiveJournal, and I was really digging in there, finding all the fic and everything. Like it was yummy. It was great. LiveJournal was a treasure trove. Um,
mhm.
but of course, I saw things that I didn't get and I didn't understand, and then I was that not 18-year-old person in
Same.
18-year-old
Absolutely,
spaces. Yeah, we
yes,
all were. I think most are.
yes.
Yeah.
No,
But
I
like I
mean,
never questioned, oh, why are they reading this? Why are they I never that's never
right.
crossed my mind. I was just
Because
kind of
none
like,
of my
what's this?
there was a fanfic that I read when I was like 16 years old that made me stop reading fan fiction
Oh,
Oh
I know
damn.
this
for like
one.
years. I kept writing it, but I did not trust anyone else's fanfic. There was one fanfic that was so bad and so scarring for me that I like left that side of me behind.
Oh my god.
Like, but I never questioned that person. I just wanted to know why they were hurting people. Like, I never like thought that that person was bad or wrong. That was entirely on me for reacting that strongly. And
Yeah.
yes, if goaded, I will tell you all what the subject of that fan fiction was. But there must be sufficient amount of goading. Uh,
I goat.
in
Goat, goat,
high
goat, goat,
school, I
goat,
was
goatsing,
reading.
goat, goating, and goats.
Yes, I like both actually. In high school, I was reading so much stuff online and finding so much art that it actually got to a point that my BFF and I didn't know who was. Yeah, there's a lot of that too. Like
Yeah.
I was talking to my RP partner about that because we've been writing together for like the better part of a decade, and it's like, and there is a bit of an age gap between us, and it's like at this stage, I don't know which of us is worse for the other. We're both bad. We're both. What was that movie where Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper were like clearly in love? Oh, A Star is Born. It's like that. Like we're both like awful for each other,
Eh,
but we're both like charismatic and beautiful. Uh, successful goading, because we do have a guest on. It was a Full Metal Alchemist fanfic, and it was Ed and Al. And it wasn't the incest that got me, it was that Al wasn't in his human body.
Oh, yeah. So like mecha porn.
This was the
Not even.
torso thing, right?
Yeah, we're like, it's
Yeah.
just Ed jerking off into Al's torso. Like, he removes Al's head and, like, places
I've
it on the
read that!
counter.
No! I've read that! I know exactly what you're talking about!
Like, having to clean out his brother's, like, cummy
It scarred
torso.
me so much, yeah, that I
Yeah,
remembered
I
that!
walked
Oh my
away.
god!
Oh my god! I walked
Yes,
away.
it's a
I was
really disturbing image.
Oh my god!
How did you both read this?
I don't know, but
Where
I know,
were
obviously
we?
I was really into Full Metal when that was around,
I
you know,
was
it was on Adult Swim, I think, and all that stuff, but like, and of course, like, everybody was scarred with Mace, and but like, Hughes, but like, oh my god, yeah, I actually know what you're talking about. I remember reading that, because I was just like, I don't know how I feel about this.
If there is a community therapist in the house, I think these two need.
I do love that we can trauma bond over this horrible thing. I thought I was alone. I've never heard anyone else who knew about this fic.
Oh
I
my
do know
god.
other people who have read it, because I have come across other people who've been like, do you ever remember that one fic? I think it must have been fairly well read.
Yeah, because I found it on Quizzilla, but I'm sure it was cross-posted to, like, LiveJournal and stuff like that.
I'm sure it was. I'm absolutely sure it was. And yeah, I mean, like, this was the era when we were on Quizzilla and Livestream, and
I was one of those
fanfic.net was
smut
around, I
writers.
think.
Yeah, I was one of those famous Quizzilla smut writers. It was
Oh
very,
my god,
very
I
fun.
read so many Quizzilla stories and fics.
You
Like,
probably ended up reading one of mine, which is a scary thing that I have to live with for the rest of my life. My first in the shipping wars was Evangelion, debating across Angel Fire websites
Oh,
whether the
Angel Fire.
translation of like or love in regarding to Shinji and Kaworu. For the
oh
record,
yeah.
I love this shit. I love it when we get like really pedantic on a small thing and we fucking are ready to fight each other over it.
But that's what he meant, though, and I'm not even, you know.
Oh, I see a question in the chat. I totally want to get it after this one.
Oh, you'll get it.
I'm just like, I'm sitting here like, Evangelion, yeah, no, I really... And you know, it was older fans too. Who were like, it was definitely my fan senpai, basically, who were really like having to deal with sort of the fallout of, you know, all of that discussion about like love, is it real, is it not? And it's kind of like, I mean, clearly there's always room for interpretation, but
I think that happened a lot also in shonen, like when we were writing like our shonen shipping manifestos, where like Naruto and Sasuke are like, oh, you're my destiny versus you're my rival, and like gay shit like that. And it's like, are you friends? Do you kiss on the mouth? Has he seen your ankles?
You know, has he seen your ankles? But you know what? Okay, we need to talk about this though, very briefly. We need to talk about this because fans, there are fans or anti-fans in the social media nether that will say, oh, well, they're queer baiting you because, oh, they look so friendly, they're all over each other, they're making you think that they care for each other, that they're in a relationship, or that they're interested in a relationship, that it's queer-coded in nature, but they're just queer-baiting you. Okay, we need to stop and pause. Because in Japanese culture, and I've also seen this in Korean culture, there is a much stronger cultural presence of same-gender bonding.
Yeah, the kinship. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm trying to pick my words very carefully because it's not something I talk about a lot, but I see it often in media. I do see it amongst, you know, I saw it amongst students that I was around. And it's not, you know, from a Western perspective, we're so hungry for queer presence, not representation, just presence, that we want to see. We're like, oh, are they... That would be so cool. Oh my God. We're not sitting here going, oh my God, I shit my students. We're sitting here going, oh, are they? That's so great. I support them. Holy crap. But that's a Western perspective because we're so hungry for it. We want queer presence because we're a desert over here. We're a drought. But over in, let's say, I'll just use Japan for now.
Mm-hmm.
When you see this sort of same gender bonding, it seems
Mm-hmm.
very intimate, it seems very close, and there is a history of it. There's a very long history of it.
There is.
And and I can't, there is actually a word for it, but I can't remember right now because I'm too brain dead. But like, um, it exists, but
It does.
it's not, it doesn't mean same sex relationship. It just means
Mm-hmm.
same gender, like bonding, like closeness,
Mm-hmm.
intimacy. And it's something
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't exist in the same way in Western spaces.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. I
So it's
also,
literally just
sorry,
a cultural divide. Yeah.
yeah, I also want to bring up something, and this is something that I've gotten into fights over with fans about, is that queer baiting does not mean that your ship didn't sail.
Yeah, that too.
That is not what that means. I actually saw that a lot. One of my friends, she's actually pretty famous for it now, but she ships like Supergirl, like Lena and whatever. I think her name is Kara. I don't know what her name is.
Yeah, I
Whatever
think it's
Supergirl's
Kara.
name is. But she ships that hard. Like she's actually gotten like fairly famous for shipping them, and she would always love her to death. Like this is not said in shade. I don't think she watches this, but you know what I mean. Covering my ass. But like she would go to town. CW is queer baiting us, and this is queer bait. Like, no, they weren't going to make a lesbian couple. Like, it's the
Yeah.
CW. They weren't going to do that. Like, you can see all the signs you want because we're fangirls and this is what we do. We have like the wall of like connected dots and paper. You can do that all you want, and that's fine. But like, you knew that was never going to be a thing. You knew that. You knew that this wasn't going to be end game. You knew that this wasn't going to happen. And it's not queer baiting. It's your ship did not sail. And what I
Yeah, you've
don't like
really
is when
got to
people,
differentiate between the two.
right,
Yeah.
and like, and they'll say that like about companies, like, oh, they're homophobic for queer baiting us. The CW was not going to do that. That doesn't make
Right.
them homophobic. Or like they had that with Destiel, and Destiel technically being in the game, but it being bad because, we're not going to talk about that because I'm scarred and we have questions that we need to answer. So,
Yeah,
first
the
of all,
Naruto thing is, yeah, that's that. It, when we watch it, we're like, this seems really like they seem very intimate with each other. There is an intimacy, but
mhm.
it's just it's sort of a different cultural expression from what we're accustomed to.
And they
But
are
I,
also violent homosexuals. Just saying.
that too. But
So
there's
see what you want
also
to see. I know creators like interpretation from fans.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But another
Yes,
thing that I
Carl.
was thinking of, just like briefly before we get to the next question, is
Mm-hmm.
another thing that we see a lot, specifically in anime, in visual novels, because a lot of animation is adapted from, say, otome game and
Mm-hmm.
dating games. So a lot of the time we get like series that are playing with pairings, and we see this in shoujo, we see this in BL, like
Mm-hmm.
God forbid I bring this up again, but Gaku in Heaven, for instance, dramatical murder, where what they're doing is nobody gets their ship because they're trying to keep everyone happy. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
let's do this scene from this part of the game to appease
Mm-hmm.
these shippers, and then this scene to
Mm-hmm.
appease those shippers, but you can't have
Mm-hmm.
anyone actually getting together at the end. And I think that a lot of creators of more mainstream series,
That
you
makes me think
know,
of Voltron. Yeah.
yeah. No, but but I think that a lot of creators, if you want to be a little bit cynical about it, that
Mm-hmm.
kind of, it's better if you don't have set pairings at the end, like you don't appease anyone, because then you leave everybody in their own headcanons and everyone's
Yeah.
happy and
I
you
feel
don't
like
let anyone down. And I
I
feel,
feel like
yeah.
I feel like a couple of more modern series have done that. Like I feel like Free kind of did that for a while, and then they decided to shit the bed. Uh, they did. Then they
Yeah.
decided to shit the
And there was
bed,
only one bed.
and there was only one bed. Uh,
And now everything's horrible.
and then like I feel like Sarazanmai kind of did that as well, where like you could really like if you really wanted to ship any of these
Yeah,
characters
yeah,
together,
yeah.
you could have, except for the obvious married couple.
I
Uh,
will say, when it comes to talking about it,
mm-hmm.
it's great. We should talk about, hey, is this going to actually have, I'm just going to use queer umbrella as I'm queer, but like, does this actually have queer characters in it, queer coded characters in it? Is
Mm-hmm.
something actually going to culminate? Or
Mm-hmm.
does it just seem like it? Now,
Mm-hmm.
here are all the little, how do you say, here are all the little additional factors to consider. When we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about media, it is going to be most helpful to talk about it on an individual basis. And then, of
Mm-hmm.
course, you can cross compare. But on an
Mm-hmm.
individual basis, there's numerous things we have to consider that have come
Mm-hmm.
up in various productions.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes an actor or actress, acting person, they will, I'm trying to cover all my bases. You know, an
Yes.
acting person will decide to play a character as if they're in a relationship with that person. So
Misha Collins.
sometimes it can be read that way because that's actually
Mm-hmm.
what the actor intended. But sometimes then the producers will be like, or the directors will be like, you know, you need to pull that back. Our network doesn't want that. That happens.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, and sometimes they are queer baiting. Sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Because in marketing, we are very, very, very aware
Mm-hmm.
of what sells. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm writing books currently. I've seen numerous articles
Mm-hmm.
talking about how the love triangle is the thing that sells the most in
Mm-hmm.
romance. It is so popular because it states that it is most popular amongst shippers. And they're
Mm-hmm.
aware of this. They know if you can get your audience to have ship wars or have
Mm-hmm.
different shipping factions
Mm-hmm.
over your characters, you will get more attention and more hype. So it does happen occasionally. I don't have any examples because, again, brain not working, but there are ones that there is queer baiting. There are ones
Well,
where,
no, I mean,
yeah.
there's definitely.
Oops.
I feel like Free did that really aggressively before it shit the bed.
But
That
this is a
like,
thing in Japan.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, they have
it's a
certain
huge thing in
productions have
Japan.
audiences. Yeah.
And it's on my brain because I keep thinking of it. Supernatural did that really hard, and so did BBC Sherlock. Even though it's a shitty series, come at me. It's a crap series. Um,
Yeah, no, my
but
partner is super into Sherlock, so I got to watch the first two seasons and they told me to stop after that.
because the third season doesn't exist, there is no
Yeah.
third season. It's just like
Good to
Black
know.
Butler. Second season, what? Uh, but yeah, like anime does that. Like I remember like early interviews with Kishimoto to bring it back to Naruto. He really liked all the shipping. He thinks it's funny. He doesn't necessarily think it's canon, but he's like, "Ha! Look at the funny girls who spend lots of money." And I did want to bring it a point to a marketing point, which is something that ties us back to the conversation. When we talk about like fans wanting like that, you're just like age out of fandom, like go to Senior Weave Island, which is a sticker at the store. Uh,
Yeah.
whore. But it's us who have the money.
Yeah.
True.
It's not the kids. It is. I work a 9 to 5 job to pay for dumb things like crowns on headsets, LEDs, and T-shirts of my once husbando.
Nah.
Like it's not kids. It's not kids that have that disposable income.
And kids will
Uh,
say, "Oh, but I have stuff." Yeah, your parents typically buy
Yeah.
you that. Someone has
right. Like
bought that for you.
the power of Fujin money is very lucrative. Why
Yeah.
do you think Yuri on Ice had merch so quickly?
Yeah.
But it's yeah, but it's also,
Fujin money.
going back to again culture and Western culture versus Japanese culture, for instance, and also what happens because now we are living in this incredibly globalized world where
Mm-hmm.
everything, you know, we have simulcasts, we have everything, and fandom obviously has changed. That's what
Mm-hmm.
that's why we're having this conversation. But
Mm-hmm.
again, going back to the whole culture thing, that we also have to remember that representation and whatever terminology, all of those things, they are different. They are still different because these these series, this media is still coming out of out of a country that have different connotations than what we do. So
Mm-hmm.
even when anime does the whole, call it queer baiting, I call it fan service because fan service in Japan is very different from what we see in the West.
Mm-hmm.
And what we see as queer baiting isn't necessarily meant as queer baiting. I mean, to an extent it is because they know that their fans are going to jump on this. They know that the ships are going to come. They know that, people are going to do this and buy all the merch and make all the dojin. But they don't have that conversation about queer representation. They don't have that conversation about queer rights that we have. And so the Japanese fans aren't necessarily looking at this going, oh, this is queer baiting, because it isn't,
Right.
because they're having a different conversation than the one we're having, but then we're looking at it with Western eyes. And that's
There's
also
also
a
there's also
discussion.
Yes.
production transparency
Yeah.
with, some shows, media, the producers, the people, the creators who make it, some of them will say, oh, this actor played it this way. They'll tell you what's going on behind the scenes. They'll tell
Yeah.
you why something is the way it is. They'll tell you how they got there, how they created it. And then some shows don't. And I find the ones that don't have as much information from their producers or their creators have far more speculation about what is actually happening, which is only natural.
Absolutely. I definitely want to get to this question
Yes.
as our
Okay.
time. We tried really hard, guys. We've been trying. Keep the questions coming.
There's
We
so
love
much
it,
to
but
talk
we're
about.
having fun. So how do we, Fujo, I'm going to go ahead and say Fujin just because I like gender neutral stuff, pro shippers combat those that are masquerading as pro ship, but are actually trying to push harmful ideals? Uh,
I actually saw this and I immediately knew my answer.
Go,
Just
go,
because,
do it.
this is one of the reasons why I don't take on a label, because I like to look at things and critically think about them in sort of a very detailed way. So what I'm saying is, I don't go, well, pro shippers need to believe a certain thing. No, I don't say anything like that. What I say is, well, what harmful idea is being pushed? Okay,
Yeah.
well, here's my stance on that. I talk about individual values or individual ideas that I believe in or I have, and I talk about them in that way. I don't talk about them as a pro shipper. I talk about just the ideas. So I don't have an example at the moment, but I would just ask, what is the idea and what is being presented to you? Can we have example of harmful ideas? Do y'all have any?
Yeah, I think so here's one that I get thrown at a lot or that I see a lot is like the problematic tropes like incest, like shota.
Right.
Um so like with Airy, I kind of agree. Like there's definitely a conversation there to be had. I think it goes back to what we talked about in the main episode, where like, you know what, you're right. There is a conversation to be had about sexualizing minors. Is it with people having fun on the internet? No. Yes, there is a conversation to be had about the fetishization of incest in media. Is that a conversation to be had with people on the internet? No.
Yeah. I sometimes have. I don't always like to, and it really depends on depends on your age. If I've got somebody coming in being like, "You like problematic things," which has happened, I'll be like, "Can you specify what problematic things?" Keep it very simple. Well, one of the ones I got was being pedophilic because, and this didn't make any sense to me, because I shipped Yuri and Victor from Yuri on Ice, and I'm like, but they're in their 20s, and I was kind of like, I'm very confused by this. I know they're adults, right? And that's, I mean, at a base level, I mean, I don't understand where you're coming from. And then they would diverge off into sort of other, well, you also shipped this thing, and like another thing was mentioned, Voltron's a fabulous topic for this, because of the whole age debacle and everyone being like, ages, and so, and so, when people come to me like that, I'm just like, look, I don't support the harmful thing you're talking about. I can't think of anyone who does, because if anyone does, I don't go anywhere near them.
Right. Like, I think that's the other big thing, honestly, is like, I don't really, again, like, just because I don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but like, I haven't really seen a lot of people like masquerading as pro ship to like infiltrate in their anties.
But
like,
I'm sure it
anties
exists.
usually.
I mean,
Oh,
look at
yeah,
the
I'm
post
sure it
rhetoric. Yeah.
exists. I am by no means denying its existence.
Yeah.
But I've known aunties to be a little bit too loud and too proud of themselves to think that they're masquerading
I'm
as
trying to
anything.
think there was this one screenshot that was going around, and I can't remember now exactly how it went, but it was like it was someone who'd asked something on Tumblr, and they hadn't gone on Anon, and then they replied, and then it turned out that they had actually asked the question themselves, like to one of their other accounts. But then they were like, "Oh shit, I forgot to log out of my ProShip account." So they were actually
Oh, I
like,
remember
yeah,
that. I think I
sock
remember seeing
puppeting,
something about that.
yeah. So it probably does exist, but
Oh yeah, I am far from saying it's not real. I'm just saying I haven't seen it.
Yeah, at the
Aries,
end of
what
the
in
day,
gossip
what
are
are
you
you
fighting with over
doing?
there?
at the end of the day, you have to. The best things I can tell you when you're on social media as an individual is to have boundaries. And
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the first thing you can do is say, if you want to have this discussion with X stranger on the internet,
Mm-hmm.
you should probably also determine their age. Like, you really want to be talking to actual minors about this, because I'm very like, no, sorry. I think you need to have this conversation with somebody else. I don't want to have a
Mm-hmm.
conversation like this with you. I'm very sorry. However, if they're like, hey, you have sources, can you share them? I'll just send them to the pinned thread I have in
Mm-hmm.
my profile and say, but be aware this is an 18 plus space, so keep yours all of that, But you got to ask yourself boundaries. Do I want to have this conversation in the first place on social media?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is if you're gonna have the conversation, why are you gonna have the conversation? Are you?
Right.
oh, did we lose Ari?
No.
I'm still
I don't
here.
know
That
what
was just
happened.
Oh,
weird. It
okay.
all just like disappeared for a second.
Nope, we're back. Everything's fine.
Okay.
Okay,
Whee!
keep going.
What I was
Yes.
saying was the void interference. It's hard out here in the
Oh
galaxy.
yeah,
Yeah.
true.
But when oh my god, my brain. This is what it does. It gets interrupted, and then I'm like, wait. Um, do you want to have this conversation? Why are you having this
Right.
conversation?
Right.
Um, are you actually going to try and accomplish something by sort of talking
Mm-hmm.
it out? That's okay. Or,
Mm-hmm.
is there a lot of anger or hostility or just like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
tension represented or in that conversation at the moment? So, how productive is it going to be? Is it just going to be a scream fest? Is it just going to be flinging insults? Because that happens. People come into your mentions just raging bull, and
Mm-hmm.
you can't really always talk to them. I've had people come flying into my comments numerous times, angry, and they're sometimes, I can only speculate because I don't know what they're thinking, but sometimes they just want to get it out of their system. People use social media regularly as a punching
Yeah,
bag. They want to come in and they want to start stuff and they want to get into it because they just feel like it. They're just on fire that day. Or sometimes they don't like your stance, or they'll think people with that stance, so they want to attack the people because it's like it's fun for them to attack, or they feel
mm.
morally justified in attacking. You really have to sort of observe the situation and be like, do I want to have this conversation with this person at this time? And then use your boundaries, use your judgment, think about it, and go from
Mm-hmm.
there. That's the best thing I can tell you on social media.
Yeah, I think also it's important to, I definitely echo Aries' points. I think for me, it's that whole like punch up, punch down issue. That
Mm-hmm.
like again, they antis do have some valid points. There are some
They
issues
do.
in media that we need to work through. Uh, are any of those solved by doxing older women?
No.
No.
Are any of those things solved by harassing artists, both foreign and domestic? Are any of those things solved by yelling at individual fans? It's sort of like, and I know I mentioned this in the episode, but like me being Roman Catholic. It's like, oh, there's all the priests be pedophile. Like, you're correct.
Like we know.
What have you achieved by saying that to me?
Yeah. And it's also,
What has been achieved? Yes.
just assuming that, and I mean, we kind of did talk about this, but just because someone ships something or enjoys a certain kind of content, it doesn't mean, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't exclude the idea that they actually see the issues, that you can actually have these conversations and enjoy the content at the same time. And I think, you know
Absolutely.
it's
Mm-hmm.
like one of those things, that I feel like everything now. I think this is very interesting because one of the series that is running at the moment is Sasamiya. And
Oh,
Sasamiya
and kids
is,
are upset.
yeah, and it's like, I've seen so many things about this. Like, people are saying, oh, it's so problematic. And I'm like, if this is problematic, then we can't do right anymore. Because,
Yeah, seriously.
yeah, and it's like, because they're like, I mean, Sasaki is literally doing everything not to overstep Miyano's boundaries. And yet people are like, he is problematic because he is in love with him. And also, he's older. And I'm like, he's 1 year, like 2 years maximum. And they're both in high school, and he's
Who
being
looks at
so.
partner who's a year younger than me?
Yeah, I know, right? And it's like that. It's like it's such a wholesome series compared to a lot of the things, but it's like even if you are, because one of those things that has always been, friends. Wait, what? Not friends. Enemies to lovers. It's a huge trope. It's a huge. Everyone loves enemies to lovers.
Yeah.
We
But
get to talk about
That's very
QAnon?
popular.
oh god,
Oh,
no.
hell yeah! We get to talk about QAnon? Fuck yeah!
I mean,
Let's
I
go!
guess they're at the root of everything. But yeah, no, but you can, everything, you can have two thoughts in your head at the same time, and it is, even if you are shipping something that is morally wrong. It's like when you're talking about, and this isn't, I mean, this isn't even queer. This is, I've seen a lot of discourse on, Joker and Harley Quinn, right? And the problem isn't necessarily shipping them. The problem is, are you romanticizing the negative parts of their relationship? Because you can enjoy the ship and still have the conversation on why their relationship isn't ideal, or and this is also why we do fan fiction, why we do fan art, because you can take those things and you can subvert them, you can give them whatever attributes that you want to see. It doesn't have to be like it is in canon, but it also doesn't mean that everyone has to abide by your rules the way that you see it. Like, everyone has an
Or
individual understanding.
no, and I think that's a great point because like that's one that's always gotten on my nerves. Like as a DC fan,
Yeah.
is like especially like recently is like, oh, find someone who is the Joker to your Harley, and it's just like you want someone to beat a baby out of you.
He did that.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
yeah. It's
Oh,
like
okay.
that's what you're asking for. Okay, I mean, sure, I guess slap them on some Hot Topic merch and sell that to children. Also, Ari, I am contractually obligated. What has eaten your microphone? Is it a cat?
My microphone currently?
Yes.
Oh,
Because there's been a lot of like
Every once in a while it gets really whooshy.
whooshy. Yeah, that's a good
interesting.
word.
Hold on, let me try moving my computer. Nothing's actually touching it. How's
I
this?
assumed it was cat. That's why I was just running with it.
Cat is here currently bathing himself and staring at me, but like,
As cat do. Okay,
how is
so
it currently?
better. Good. So I do kind of want to talk about this QAnon thing just because I think this is endlessly fascinating, but there has been a lot of like taking that aspect of the conversation and slapdashing it over a bunch of conspiracy theory stuff. There's some great videos on Vice and everything about this. We have Russian trolls. Oh my god, this is the first time. This is
What
amazing.
the
I
hell?
have to go do some YouTube stuff now. Uh, this is amazing. This is our first time with Russian trolls. I love it.
Is it because QAnon was mentioned?
Oh, probably.
Oh no, we mentioned,
Yeah, no,
we
no,
mentioned
really, actually,
QAnon
from a
and we
media
have Russian bots.
standpoint, this was something that was studied at my university, and they actually got a lot of information. But yeah, it's Russian bots tend to pop up when things like that, like QAnon, are mentioned, and things.
Huh.
It just they find you.
That's interesting.
That's amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
This is
There's
fantastic.
a lot of people doing work on that. I mean, that was, there was a lot more focuses in my program that I was, that are very relevant for me, but I was just like, I want to talk about the gay stuff. And so, sort of this outlier, but yeah, I got to hear a lot
It's
of what
okay.
people were
I
doing.
don't usually get to do a ton of YouTube moderation because you guys are remarkably nice, and we don't usually have to worry about that shit. So thank you for making me earn my keep. Um, thank you for making me. Yeah, thank you for making me like earn my crown and earn my keep. But yeah, there is a lot of I think also just to take it back to like pro ship, anti ship, there is this like hijacking of the narrative where like they do seem really, really focused on like the problematic stuff. But yeah, like there is this like I do love that Corolla brought this up. There is this utter lack of awareness that like most of us do think that this is bad. Like, we don't think that it's positive, and we are aware that cognitively it isn't good. That's why we read it in fiction.
Exactly.
Like, we would be aghast if this stuff happened in real life. Of course we would.
But
That's
it's
why in fiction it's interesting.
yeah, and
Yes.
it's interesting because, they are very often the same people, because
Mm-hmm.
this goes both ways. Like, even if I say this is fiction and fiction isn't
Mm-hmm.
reality, of course
Mm-hmm.
I'm very aware that fiction can and does affect reality. But the question is, how is it
Mm-hmm.
done? So why aren't they able then to see it from to turn that on its head? Because exactly, fiction
Mm-hmm.
does fiction does affect reality. So we can read
Sure.
about these things, so we can have these
Mm-hmm.
conversations in safe spaces and in a way that doesn't actively harm anyone, because we aren't talking about real people.
Mm-hmm.
We can do thought experiments on 2D characters who are
Yeah.
essentially just scribbles on a page.
Or sometimes you just want some totocest.
Yeah, and that's fine because
So, like, sometimes you just want some totocest. Like, I don't want to make everything like a thought experiment, because you're right. But sometimes you
but
also
it
Is that thought or
just want to see
THOT?
you just want to see someone get thrown on Endeavor.
and that's okay.
Yeah, that's
You know?
okay. It is expression, exploration. Just because you like something in media doesn't mean you want to go do that thing in media.
Yeah,
Which is the
absolutely.
baseline. It's just like watching crime shows on TV or being obsessed with the true crime podcast.
Yeah.
Love true
That's a little
crime.
bit different because people are trying to survive. I've heard that. But like,
We
when you're
sure are.
yeah, when you're interested in, CSI or something, doesn't mean you want to go out and be a detective, doesn't mean you want to go out and solve crimes, it doesn't mean you want to go
And
out and
also doesn't
commit
mean you want to be the
crimes. You're
serial
just
killer.
interested.
Like, it doesn't.
But
It also,
yeah,
yeah.
and that's, I mean, I'm not saying, because I absolutely have seen this. We have actually hit rock bottom, because I have seen people on Twitter be like, "Oh, it doesn't matter if it's fictional. Murder is still murder." Like,
Yeah.
okay, so you're gonna send Stephen King to jail? Like, I don't,
Like, yeah.
I don't what? But it's interesting because so much of this is, people coming after queer creators and queer content in particular. Just say that you're
Yeah.
homophobic then, because you're not going after, you know, you're not going after Nordic noir or, crime novels. You're not going after, I don't know.
Yeah,
Like,
no
okay,
one's. Yes.
we watched the Tokyo Revengers film this weekend, which was actually
Uh-huh.
surprisingly good. I really liked it. And I was like, my girlfriend hasn't seen the series, so we watched the film, and I was like, so here's the thing, because with these things where you have characters who are in their 30s who are time traveling back to their high school, middle school selves. We saw this in real life. We saw this in Tokyo Revengers, and then they have a high school sweetheart, and you're like, okay, that's interesting, because now he's a 30-year-old man in a 15-year-old's body, and he has a girlfriend who's 15, and I guess that's interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
No one is talking about this, but dare you ship any of these male characters with each other? It's, oh, pedophilia, because they're underage, but no one's discussing. And I'm going off on a tangent, but it's
No,
just,
but this
it's
is it
homophobia.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not
Yeah.
they're not even going after the creator who made it. They're going after the people who like it.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
I
little
think the
people
exactly.
that
only.
they
I
feel
think
they
the
can actually
only
take
time.
on.
Yeah, I think the only time that we did go after a hetero pairing like that was actually one that was mentioned in a joke earlier. Was that we were vehemently against Shishomaru and Ren being canon and
Oh
Yasha
right, yeah.
Ine. We were very angry at that. No one likes talking about that, and everyone is very much upset that that's canon. Like, I think that's one of the only times that I've seen like that equal level of fervor. But that's because, like, for whatever reason, that is the one thing we can all agree on. That was bad and no one wanted it. This is a box that we all received and all of us are like, eh.
I mean, okay, let's sit here and take an example of like, okay, Inuyasha and Kagome, somebody said 14 versus 500. Okay,
200.
that's so wildly fictional that we can't be like, pedo, because they're portrayed as the same age. For
Yeah.
example, here's another one that we can talk about having good thing, like, not good thing, neutral things and kind of questionable things.
Twilight?
Bella and Edward in Twilight.
Yeah, here we
Bella
go.
and Edward. They're supposed to have this huge age difference, and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
I mean, like, super fictional, but go on. But then the things we should be talking about are, you know, how long have you been coming to my room? You know, and
Yeah.
oh, I've just been coming in the last.
Are
few
we not
months.
going
I
to
like
talk
watching
about
you
the
sleep."
werewolf and the weird baby? Are we not talking about that?
Oh god.
Oh yeah, the
Like-
weird baby.
The imprint.
The imprinting on the baby, or like him sneaking into her room and watching her sleep. Let's talk about the actual problematic romanticized things, because him sneaking into her room, her response isn't kind of like, what, that's weird. Her response is, oh.
I would be like, Dad,
romanticizing it.
get the gun. Like,
Yeah, like I'm not really a gun person.
No, I
but
know,
that
right?
would be the we need a gun. We
If
need
there's
lots of guns.
and if your room is like on the second or third floor and someone's like coming through your window watching you sleep, no, I am not a gun person. But you know what? Maybe
Nah,
just
we're setting like elaborate traps. It's gonna be like fucking Saw. We're setting elaborate traps. We're sitting in a corner with a shotgun, just rocking. We wait.
Just rocking.
just like that.
We don't talk about the romanticization of that. We just
No.
want to talk about the age difference. And I'm like, okay.
But it also, and I want to go back to this comment because you're right. People hate on Yachiro and Bitch Club. I think it's
Oh,
fine.
I
yeah.
love Yari-chan. It took a while, but
But,
I
like,
love it.
But Euphoria exists. And that's an entire show about kids doing coke off of dicks and walking around scantily clad.
And
I've seen
interest.
so many references to Euphoria recently. I haven't actually seen that. I don't know what
I-
it is.
Apparently,
trying-
everyone thinks it's good.
I'm trying to watch it, but I can't get into it. I don't know what it is. Like, I watched the two first seasons relatively like quickly, and then now when the third season came out, I was like, who is this character? I can't remember anything.
I
But
don't like it.
interestingly, there's another show, or should I say there was another show that is kind of similar. Oh yeah, Cal's Heaven. Yeah, that's another discussion. No, but interestingly, there's a different show that is very similar to Euphoria. You know, Generation. And Generation is essentially the same thing. I think a little less drugs, but you know, lots of teenagers having sex and doing things, and making bad choices. But most of them are queer and non-binary or trans in some way. And that show got cancelled after 2 seasons. Euphoria is still going. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's
What's it
interesting.
really about, folks?
It's because everyone thinks that Zendaya is attractive. I think she's just fine.
I absolutely loved Generation, okay, because Justice Smith is an angel and must be protected.
I mean, like another show, Gossip Girl.
I've
are
never seen
they're
Gossip
technical teenagers. They're teenagers running around gambling, doing drugs, drugging each other, having sex with each other, and all sorts of different
Yeah,
ways
like
and,
I mean,
trade-offs and
Riverdale is like that, where sometimes you just got to sacrifice your friend to a weird.
And yet, no
cult.
one's addressed that. We're stuck in this little anime realm where they're like, you can't ship that, and I'm like, you need to actually go out and touch grass and see.
Right, like I think that's always my
There's a
biggest
lot
issue
of
with
other
this.
stuff going
is-
on in the media realm.
Exactly,
Yeah.
that's always my biggest problem. Is that it's like okay, but like then bring this energy everywhere else.
Yeah.
Bring this, or
Bring it
my
everywhere else.
actual
Let's talk about it.
my actual real issue is bring this about real people, please. So my actual big issue is bring this energy about actually protecting minors, about
Yeah.
actually protecting trans people, about actually protecting victims of SA.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like, I get it. You guys want to protect cinnamon roll anime characters. That's great. There are real people that are still abused that you're just
Yeah.
like walking past.
And you know, it's like going back to that discussion, and I think we've said this so many times, but you know, the gatekeeping, you know, that is happening, that when you are like, oh, I need to protect this fictional character, but then you're stepping all over someone who is, for instance, dealing with their own trauma, using fictional characters and using hypothetical fictional situations, and then you know, you're like, I don't care what your therapist said, I don't care what this mental health professional is literally telling me in these comments, because I am on my morally superior high horse, and you are wrong because this is toxic. And then you are verbally abusing someone who's actually dealing with their own stuff because you want to protect Deku. And I'm like, but,
I don't think my therapist would ever let me read Twittering Birds Never Fly and call it therapy.
well, I guess it.
I don't think that I can. I don't think I could call Yashiro my emotional support uke.
Probably not.
This is my emotional support ass.
But I mean, talk you know, there's this, and then let's address mainstream media. Little fix, people drawing an art here and there is not mainstream enough that it's going to have the huge effect that mainstream media does on minors. So when we talk about various shows like what you've mentioned, like the really sort of big name shows that involve minors doing these things, that's more harmful as a portrayal, where parents need to sit down and be like, hey, this is something we don't do. Let's not copy the TV with their minor. And the mainstream stuff is far more pervasive. It could have an effect and has had effects versus that little Voltron fanfic we read. Like, you know, and the fact is when these conversations come up, people don't want to admit that when they're against a certain idea.
I definitely want to bring up this comment because I come at it two different ways. One, as a writer who's experienced trauma, and two, as a writer who's just a messy bottom sometimes and likes seeing characters fight. Um, every once in a while, that gremlin uke inside of me comes out, and he likes just causing problems. Um, I think a lot of media by queer people is less problematic, just because, of course, it's queer people writing stuff, but also I think that there needs to be a space that like not every portrayal of a queer character or a queer narrative is bubblegum and rainbows or barrier gaze. There has to be a space for negative queer experiences because it does happen. I think that's one of the reasons I love Twittering Birds Never Fly too so much is because Yashiro is never rewarded for being a bad person. Also, it's his birthday. Everyone goes say happy birthday to
Yeah.
a fictional
Birthday,
character.
Yashiro.
Happy birthday, Yashiro. You know, there. I think that's one of the reasons I love that series so much is because Yashiro is almost never rewarded for being a garbage human being. Domeki is very, very rarely rewarded for being a garbage human being when he isn't being a literal himbo. But that's just how trauma has warped him. And that happens to people. So there does need to be space for that narrative that isn't just flagrant, illicit, or problematic for the sake of problematic, because that is still a thing, and I am not belittling that. But it doesn't have to be like the puritanical gay who is murdered in their prime and wafts gently up to heaven to go be with the angels because they were too pure for this world and they have to ascend up to the sky because they were murdered mid-series. You know, a hate crime happened and they were murdered mid-series and carried up by the heavenly hosts. You know, it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
And I feel like both is an overcorrection of the obvious, which is gay people are people, which means that I know shockingly, like we aren't like unicorns in a forest.
No.
Some of us have had
I don't
messy
know about
lives.
you, but
I'm
Yeah, I mean-
disappointed. I mean, we don't know about
Yeah.
Area because they're a literal void, so we don't actually
Yeah, this
know
is
what's
true.
happening.
This is true. But
I mean, I'm out here by the Andromeda Galaxy, so you know, I'm a bit
Yeah.
removed.
yeah, so I mean that's true. That might be some people's experience. Like they've, like this is how you can tell that I'm an older gay. But like Rent comes to mind, where
Yeah.
like especially in the movie, when Angel gets sick and he passes away, and it's almost like a portrayal of the Pietà almost, and just angelic and soft. He is killed by this horrible virus that he totally got because he was being unsafe, even though I'm aware that there was a pandemic and like a crisis, but also he totally got it because he was doing unsafe stuff. Screams. But they portray his death as like so innocent and so magical, and he it's like this magical realism, and he appears everywhere because he's a dead gay angel. But no one talks about like how he did bad things like murdering someone's dog and stealing things, and that Collins later wires an ATM to give out money, which is also called theft. Checks notes is called theft. Like I've watched Rent too many times. We're not going to talk about
I've
it.
actually never seen it.
What?
No, because I don't think they've ever staged it here, and I wanted to see it on stage.
Oh, okay.
I did find out that there is a stage recording, so I'm planning to watch it.
Okay. Like, let's see. Sort of helped me in a weird way because reading a series, it actually, yeah, there's a lot of that too. Like, not to continue to harp on Yashiro just because it's his birthday. There's a
But
reason
we're
why
good
if
at
you
that.
listen, if you look at the male characters that are like, I want to steal your gender, there's an obvious thread there that
You
some of
realize-
you may have been able to notice.
I'm just pointing out that 80 Yuki's birthday is coming up next month, I think.
Oh my gosh.
So, you know, just
That
I'm
name,
just
it
throwing
comes
it
back.
out there.
Somehow we always manage to bring up.
I think we
Gravitation.
actually didn't talk about gravitation last time, which is like,
We didn't.
Oh my God.
That's true.
Oh
Oh
my
my god, we
God.
didn't. Can we talk about how problematic Ryuichi is?
Yeah.
I mean, you
we
want to
talk
talk
about
about
how-
Ryuichi? Can we talk
Can we talk about? No, don't bring him up because I know you're
I
going to do it. He hasn't done anything.
No, because
been
actually,
framed.
I am
No.
so tired of talking about Toma that let's not.
No, he's done nothing wrong. He is a perfect cinnamon roll. We're not going to talk about anything bad that he's did because it doesn't exist.
No,
Ship
it's not like
wars
he is-
break out
I
on
mean, you are
Yaoi
not.
shelf.
You are not. This is our regular. You're like neck deep in denial, but it's okay. You're entitled.
Listen,
It's okay.
he is just doing his best to support his family and his business. and
Especially
sometimes-
his wife. Wow.
Especially his wife and
Yeah,
unborn
yeah, yeah.
child. He's a father. You know, sometimes you
you
gotta
know,
push people into
terrifying.
traffic.
No.
Sometimes
I
you have
hate
to threaten. Sometimes you have to push people into traffic to protect your brother-in-law who you have too many feelings about, and you know your baby on the way, and your wife that you totally didn't marry for nefarious reasons. Sometimes you just got a girl boss too close to the sun.
Oh my god.
Also, yeah, we're not going to talk about how problematic Sojo is because we would have a whole other like season of
I'm
the show.
so tired. No.
We would have a whole other season of the show.
There's another boundary. When you get to the point where you're like, oh, I'm so
Yeah.
tired. I know it's time to relax.
It's like I wish I knew how. You know, I've been in fandom
Mood.
spaces for so long. I have no idea how to turn it off anymore. I'm so tired. But yeah, no, you know, I see those words on the bottom of the screen, problematic elements in shoujo, and my brain is just like a truck
So many.
crashed into my brain, and it's like Peach Girl and Hot Gimmick, and I just want to scream.
I saw someone, and like not to throw shade, but I saw someone recently do this, and they're like, "Love stage, is this the most problematic BL?" And it's like, really?
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 Love stage?
Really?
Really?
You wanna talk-
I mean,
Love
we
stage.
sit here talking about corn and bourbon. Are you sure?
Are we gonna not talk about Loveless?
Oh God! Oh God! The ears.
Are we not talking about Loveless?
I'm just no.
We're not going to talk about that one at all. We're just going to ignore that
Oh,
one.
Somebody said it. Somebody said Card Captor Sakura. I mean, can we talk about for a moment the fact that I've never really watched the show, and I watched
Same.
one episode, and she's 10,
Yes.
and
She's
her
10?
love interest, she's young, and her
Mhm.
love interest is in high school?
Mm-hmm. We can talk about it. We can talk about it.
I was shocked. That actually made me not watch it.
But it's like
So I used to love card captors when I was a kid, and I never really noticed it because I was a dumb child. But I will say this: one thing I did notice immediately was the very, very bad attempt that 4Kids made to make it less gay.
oh god.
Oh,
that
yeah.
that too? Was there anything that they didn't, you know?
They tried so hard to make it not gay, and I'll never forget this line because it's the horrible like Americanized names.
God.
It's Yukito and Toya, and I think like Sakura asks Yukito like about like his relationship with Toya because like they're always around, and he like almost like he looks at the camera and is like, "You could say your brother and I are good friends." It's just like even as a child, it's like something isn't correct here.
But it's like, you know,
Something
it's
is not
like-
correct here.
I know that this has been mentioned to death, but I just when they localized Sailor Moon for the first time, and they were like, "This looks kind of gay. Let's make them cousins." And I'm like,
I
"This
do remember that one as
Make them
well.
cousins. Let's make them cousins.
Yeah, because like I
Think about
remember
that.
looking at my younger cousin and being like, we don't act like that.
and it's like
It's like we don't do this.
A
Like
Corolla, by
what?
the way. I went back and I looked up. Yeah, Sakura is 10 to 11. I think she's 12
Oh.
by the end of the series.
okay,
And I
that's
knew
a
that
bit.
because she had a Ron DeSater. She had the elementary school backpack. But like when I looked up, she was 10.
You know, I'm usually, as long as it's, especially, as long as it's in fiction and particularly
Yeah.
like animated stuff, I don't really go very strongly against age gaps, like, because first of all,
Yeah,
they are
no.
fictional characters. But if you're 10 and your boyfriend's in high school, no.
Yeah, I think
That's-
for me, like I don't care. The age gaps are this. It's silly, but for me, that was what turned me off of the series immediately. But I don't think people shouldn't watch it.
No,
People
exactly.
love
Exactly.
Cardcaptor Sakura, so I have friends who they just love it. They adore it. They grew up on it. For me, it was like, oh, whoa, what? She's 10, like, and that was fine. But then when I see that the love interest is a high schooler, I'm like, I'm sorry, pardon me, what is happening? And so I didn't watch it. But like, it's one of those things to talk about in portrayal, because on the Japanese side of things, that stuff happens. And I'm sure, I don't know, I don't know if that's happened in the US per se. We have our individual cultural problems, but like in Japan, there's been this huge discussion of making heroines into these very, very young girl figures with very, very older men. And that was a big discussion in Japan for Japanese fans to talk about and criticize their own media. So that was the only thing I was thinking about in regards to it. I don't have anything against the show. I was just like, that needs to be talked about.
But it's kind of, I don't know, it makes me, now I'm completely derailing everything, but it kind of reminds me of, the idol industry. And in particular, I don't know, there was this one documentary, and it's like, because they have idol groups with actual children. Like, I think there was a documentary, there was like a girl idol group, and they were like 5 to 8 years old, and the majority of their fans were grown-ass men. And I'm like, see, that
doesn't feel legal.
Yeah, because that's where you want to, like, the idol industry is corrupt as hell, and I don't like it. But there's a difference between, AKB48 or whatever, everyone's over the age of, mostly over the age of 18 and having mostly grown up men as fans. And then, but then when you are a mother pushing your grade school child into an idol group and thinking it's perfectly okay for her to do handshake events with 40-year-old men, I'm thinking, no, that is a real world problem.
About this.
Yeah, maybe we should talk about that. And then, okay, so Cardcaptor Sakura, okay, problematic on a different level, but maybe we should start over here, like... And absolutely not saying that is, commonplace, because, the Western media likes to be like, oh, this is perfectly normal in Japan and everyone's fine with it. I'm not saying that at all, but it does happen.
Yeah, and there's one more part of this. When people mention stuff like this, and especially in discussion on social media, they talk about age gaps and whatnot. Yeah. The one thing I always see people say that drives me crazy is that this media, whatever they're criticizing, makes people pedophiles, or it makes pedophiles, or it encourages pedophiles. No. Pause. The societal presence of pedophiles and people who prey on minors existed prior to the media. There might be some people who use media, but the people already existed. The problem in society already existed. And the problem in society sometimes can have an influence on the media. And I'm just talking about a Japanese thing, because I've had this discussion with Japanese students in my university, or in the university when I was there. And they would say, there is this discussion about little girls and shoujo encouraging men to prey on them. and that's the message the media was sending. And she said, but that's really not what it is. She said, this has already been a prevalent problem in society that we don't want to address, so we want to blame the media
Yeah,
creating these
exactly.
types of people
Oh,
as
okay.
opposed to the actual type of people already existing. Yes, they might use media, but this media is that's it's for everybody to
Yeah.
enjoy, which is a
Right,
large
it's sort of
perspective
like
in Japan.
it's like when video games get blamed for murder.
Yeah.
It's like pretty sure murder
Exactly.
existed before video
It's
games.
like
About
Yes.
99% sure murder existed before video games.
it's
Yeah.
like the friggin' South Park movie, you know, when the parents are like, we must blame Canada before anyone
Yeah.
thinks of blaming us. Because it's like,
Yes.
they don't have anything to do with it. They're
Oh
just the
God, I know.
parents.
But I do
Sorry.
think also, yes.
Oh, sorry. I said I was sorry about any noise. I was moving my computer.
They didn't hear
Oh, that was
anything.
fine.
Okay, great.
So I think that there's also like there's a conversation in there that I think we need to harken on as well, and that is one part that no one likes talking about, which is what is one the role of creators in this. Which spoiler alert, it's zero. But the bigger issue is what is the role of parents?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's my big thing with a lot of this stuff. And don't get me wrong, I was a wild and kid on the internet a long time ago who definitely got into situations that I shouldn't have been and definitely was doing things that I shouldn't have been doing. But that wasn't anyone else's fault but me and my lack of internet literacy, understanding, and supervision.
Yeah.
That
It's
was
fair,
no one
'cause
else's fault.
We have to talk about though from a Western perspective because probably can't.
Yes.
It's parenting is entirely different, say in like
Absolutely.
Japan. So in terms of Japanese parents versus that,
Yeah,
we can't
I'm
really
by no
compare.
means blaming like anyone else, but yeah, like we do. I think that's what I'm getting at is like from a Western perspective, especially us in the U.S.,
Yeah,
because we're the ones that seem to be
Western
driving
parents.
this
Yeah.
ship. I know that when I was wilding on the internet, that was no one else's fault but me, Zanga, and my aunt leaving me alone with a computer. Now, do I think the solution is that everyone needs to have? Because so I've been on a kick of watching To Catch a Predator just because I don't know how that show existed.
oh my god, Chris Hansen.
Yeah, I don't know how that
Yes.
show existed. I'm not a lawyer, but I think that's just entrapment.
That was wild.
Wild. What was this show?
You never watched To Catch a
Oh my
Predator?
god,
No,
I thought it was
I
so
don't think
funny.
I did.
Okay, so To Catch a Predator was a show that was on like early 2000s where it was like it was a Daylight NBC special. That's how you can tell. And it was Chris Hansen, and he worked with this group called Perverted Justice. The
I can't
best name for
believe you
anything.
remember that.
Perverted Justice. The name
That's what it
the
was
name of
called.
our
Oh my
next
God.
album. The name
Yes,
of
that's
Suichi Shindo's
wild.
next album.
What a name.
Perverted Justice.
I love it.
Which is an internet watchdog group that like put decoy adults in like romance chat rooms to pretend like they were 12, 13,
Yeah.
14 years old, girls and boys, to like lure men into being gross with them. And then they would like dox them essentially and like give all their information
and they
to
would-
the police. Yes, perverted justice.
Yeah, and they would show up like the entire like the police and the
It's a
entire
sting
like
operation
cast.
where
Yeah,
like NBC rents a house and they get like an actress who looks young but she's actually like 18 or 19, or sometimes it's a guy or like a woman cross-dressing a boy. Gender doesn't exist. And like they lure men to this house and it's always entrapment.
Yeah.
Because then what they'll do is like the decoy will say, oh, bring me like candy. And when the guy brings the candy, it shows intent that he was here to meet this girl. And then, you know, they have their moment on TV where they're like, oh, I shouldn't talk to this girl. She said she was 18.
and it's so
Chris
funny.
Hansen, yeah.
Chris
Go ahead.
Hansen steps out. He always comes out of some shadow, and he's like, "Hi, I'm Chris Hansen with Dateline NBC. Have a seat over there." And sometimes they would have a seat, but a lot of the time they would run, like they would run out the back door. And they
She's
would
a runner,
chase
she's a
them
track
down.
star. Just
It
gone.
was wild. It was wild. We used to watch
And
it all the
it
time.
ended because in the US, trigger warning, in
Tell me.
Texas, actually not far from where I live, there was a judge who got caught trying to
God.
seduce someone, and he killed himself on television.
No.
Like he like ran away. Police went to his house. Like they called his district cops. They went to his house, and he like killed himself on camera.
Wow. Yeah,
And
we
like
didn't
that
get that
ended the
episode.
series. Well,
We
yeah,
didn't
no,
get
it's
that
really
one.
hard to find. I've seen it. It's really hard to find. But like, yeah, that ended the series. Like, fuck, shut it down, shut it down. Because like,
Oh my god.
but yeah, so that was To Catch a Predator. What I was getting at is like To Catch a Predator always had these like really like in hindsight there's like super hokey tips like how to protect your child from internet predators. And like one of them was like, keep your computer in a common room. Watch what your kid is doing. Understand that when your kid comes to you saying stuff like this, yeah, that's a pretty good reason why the show ended is someone,
Jeez, yeah.
ends it and you can hear the audio of it, on television. It happened live. Thousands, millions of people watched that, and his family sued NBC so
I was gonna
hard.
say I was waiting for the settlement talk to come. I'm like, they
Oh,
definitely
they
would have sued
sued
over
it.
that.
Well, actually, a lot of the trials got thrown out because it's entrapment. So
Oh
it's
my
like,
Oh
god.
cool, this guy
god.
was a pedo, but this is literal entrapment. Like it's like a Reese's, pieces line with a box and a stick. Like it's
Yeah.
literal entrapment. So actually, like, a lot of the cases got thrown out because it's like this was a sting. Oh yeah, those aren't legal. So bye. But like, my aunt didn't have a great understanding of what I was doing when I was a kid, and I was a kid, which meant that I was horny and had a porn machine.
Eh.
So I was a Catholic kid who was horny and had a porn
Even
machine.
worse.
Yeah, no,
But
I understand that. The definite
yeah.
like repression in the real world and like everybody's like, we can't talk about it, we can't talk about it, so you're just left to your own devices and you're like, I'm free on the internet.
Yeah,
Very
exactly. But,
correct.
but that's one of those things again, it's like I again coming from a Scandinavian point of view where we are a lot more, open and I don't know,
Heathens.
relaxed about these things. But you can't be all protecting minors by essentially like how it's not sex education if it's just teach abstinency and
Yeah,
nothing else,
exactly.
and
You have
then
to be open about it.
yeah, you need to have conversations, teach them how to set boundaries, teach them to talk to you about things. And it's like I because I don't, again, and I've said this before, it's not necessarily a bad thing that you are exploring these things on the internet within safe environments. And I mean, there's a difference between reading fanfic of your favorite characters smooching and like
Talking to
looking
somebody
up
online.
yeah, or looking up like damaging hardcore pornography that you don't understand. And but if I were a parent, and I mean I am of the age where a lot of these anti-children are telling me, actually not me personally because I'm not getting into these discussions with
Let's say,
anyone, but
girl, you aren't fighting with anyone.
no,
I
I'm
am.
not fighting with anyone. I just want to be left in peace with my figure skating. But it's like, but
Can
it's
we
like,
please watch figure skating together? You never
oh,
answered me when
bring
I
it.
asked.
I'm sorry, I was dead.
I asked you on the internet and you didn't answer me, but I really want to watch
No,
figure
but
skating
because
together.
I was watching, that was when I was watching Tokyo Revengers, I think. But yeah, no, I'm just, we are being told as older, particular, women or femme presenting people in fandom
Them
being
in
told that,
betwixt.
go watch your kids, like get out of these spaces, go watch your kids. I'll say this, but where was I going with this?
Where'd you
Yes,
go
if
with
I
this?
actually had any kids, if I had hypothetical kids to watch, I would much rather have my kids exploring, fandom and coming to me with questions if they encountered something that frightened them or that they didn't like or whatever, than having them harassing and doxing people on the internet, because that's not healthy either. Like, your kids are essentially in this Puritan cult that is just, them ganging up on each other and being like calling each other out in public, like, hey bestie, I saw you like this thing, don't you know that this person is like, that's not healthy either.
Right. Like
Yeah.
it's definitely I agree with you. And to echo some of the points that were said, yeah, like parents do have it really, really rough now. Like they don't know what their kids are doing online. And I think it's not so much the technology part that I really want parents to be aware of. It's creating an open space to let your children talk about this stuff. Cause like that's the one thing that I think that I'm not gonna say that I missed it from my aunt, but like her just like utter lack of understanding did the thing that happens to most teens when you say don't do it. So
Yeah.
she said no to gravitation, and I found Boku no Pico.
Exactly.
So like,
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
like there
that's
was a direct pipeline between, oh, you're gonna say no to the soft stuff. Challenge accepted, bitch. Like,
All I know is like and my sister, she's older than me. She's a Gen X. I'm a millennial. Her kid was born in 2000, so I guess that makes her a Z.
how is that
My
even
niece
possible?
is turning 22, which is wild.
oh my wow.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so like she grew up with access, and probably not as much access as they have now, obviously, but
Mm-hmm.
being born in 2000, but like she's grown up with this access. And I know the running conversation was always, she's gonna get into it, you can't keep her from it.
Mm-hmm.
It's internet, but what you need to establish is open conversation
Hmm.
and feel like there's a
Mm-hmm.
sense of trust that you can have that open conversation, which then falls
Mm-hmm.
down to parents being healthy enough to have that relationship with their kids. And we have to acknowledge everything that is actually occurring, because look at how many people talk about how crappy their parents are to them.
Yeah.
And not having that trusting. My cat is drinking my tea, so I guess I'm not drinking that anymore.
Oh,
um
okay.
The cat needed it more, apparently.
What flavor
Apparently,
is
okay.
it?
Thank you, marmalade. But like, uh, you know, there is a lot of people who just don't have that open, honest, trusting relationship with their parents to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So then
Hmm.
you get these lawless children running amok on the internet, learning from each other. And they don't have, we say talk to your guardians or adult, and I imagine quite a number of them don't have that in some ways. So that's something also to look at. But like, yeah, when it
Also,
came to
when
my
you, I'm
niece,
sorry, not
oh
to
yeah,
cut you off, but when you say lawless children, I just imagine like a pack of velociraptors.
again, it's the little gaggle of children chasing the white van.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like it honestly just feels like, because like we learned that like raptors are like large and scary. They're like chicken sized and feathered.
oh my god.
So
And loud.
it's just, and very loud. It's just like a gaggle of like aggro chickens running after a flaming van. Like that's what it feels.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it. But yeah, I mean, like, the
Yeah.
truth of
So.
it is that these kids, a lot of them are not going to
Mhm.
go to their parents, because there is also the early childhood development sense of a sense of independence.
Mhm.
There's also that, they don't need to go to their parents, is
Mhm.
a
Hmm.
perspective that is very common to develop within adolescence. And then, we tell them, oh, if you're experiencing this, you should go to your parents. I mean, did we?
I was getting ready to say that because like, so I was raised by like a shockingly like sexually open Catholic woman, which if anything
Yeah.
made it
It's
much harder to talk
unusual.
about that stuff. Because like then it felt like a contest, like, oh, when I was your age, I was doing all this, and it's like,
Oh yeah.
okay, well, I'm still also doing all those things, but you know, I'm not telling you. It was so funny. Slight TMI, but when my aunts found out that I was actually like sexually active in high school, they were like shocked. It was like, you were doing stuff in high school? It's like, yes. Like, why didn't you tell us? Why would I tell you?
Why would I say exactly?
What was I
Yeah.
supposed to do? Write down a report? I sucked this many dicks. Are you proud? Do I get a gold star?
It would be an ideal, healthy way to deal with this if we could say, please don't put yourself in 18 plus spaces. It's not good for you, or you
Mm-hmm.
might need to talk with a guardian in an open way, or
Mm-hmm.
someone that you trust, that not on the
Mm-hmm.
internet.
Mm-hmm.
And have a healthy open relationship, healthy open discussion, much
Mm-hmm.
like the culture Corolla comes from, because I'm familiar with that, not because of my family, but because of the fact that I studied global education. So I've experienced all these different takes on sex education in different countries, and so I know what a lot of the stances are on some of
Yeah.
these, especially in Norway, where is one place where I studied. But like, we don't have that here. So when we're talking about this, let's just say US centric audience,
Mm-hmm.
um, we can tell them, go talk to your guardians. That would be the healthy thing to do. You know, have these open discussions with it, they're probably not going to do it. And they're like, no, why would I do that? And then I think back to, my relationship with my family. No, I certainly didn't do that. They were very repressed and very hush hush about bodies and everything. And they still are. And I'm just kind of the flaming gay over here. Like, y'all are still embarrassed about this
and
stuff.
I think it's also important to hallmark, and this is something that I've like kind of dealt with almost like existentially over the last few years, is especially like as times have changed, the understanding that what we were doing was something that we shouldn't have been doing is pretty recent. Like,
Yeah.
like the I'm gonna say expansion, and I don't mean this like it's facetious, but like the expansion of the definition of sexual harassment and sexual assault.
Yeah.
That is definitely an expanded definition than when I was younger. And in hindsight, oof. Like looking back, oh, I have been victim a lot. And probably inadvertently, I have accidentally victimized some people then, if these definitions are what definitions are. I think especially in fandom, and this is where I will be air quotes critical of fandom spaces, a lot of us really were and are the blind leading the blind on this.
Yeah.
So if I saw something that was problematic, like that Alphonse Edward fanfic, I couldn't go to the writer, because of course they thought they were doing a great job. I couldn't go to my friends, because either they were traumatized or they were going to call me a pussy. And I couldn't go to my aunt, because she was going to be concerned about why an Aryan child jerked off into a trash can that's sentient.
Trash can. Oh my god.
Have some
The
respect
glomping.
for the
Oh, the glomping. God,
Yeah.
yeah. The yaoi
Having some-
paddles. I have been
The
hit by
yaoi
a number of yaoi
paddles.
paddles.
But yeah,
Maui
but
paddles.
we did touch on this at some point earlier because it's not only assault and all of those things, but consent in general, because we didn't consider, Amanda talked about the hentai Bibles being, come here, let me show you my porn,
Oh my
We
God.
didn't realize that was non-consensual, because you're not asking, hey, are you into this,
No.
do you want to look at doujins together? You're literally just shoving porn in someone's face. It's like that, that guy pulling up porn in the public library. Oh my god.
I have a name. I have a name, Corolla.
I have a name.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That guy
I didn't
recording-
want to.
That guy recording porn in the library. I have a name.
This podcast, and y'all are hilarious because you have nuanced conversations, but you are also filthy, rabid porn eaters.
I mean, true.
You are
We have
correct.
nuance and rabidness. Like, it's just
You are
don't
absolutely
get it any
correct.
better here.
I
That
used
is the
to-
nicest thing I've ever
yeah.
heard.
Thank you. I appreciate it. No, but also, we've diverged a little bit because now we're focusing so much on the minors in the 18 plus spaces. But it's not
We're
like
speculating.
all the antis are kids either. We have, I mean, Ari, you're a scholar. You study these things, and you did the whole. I'm so stupid. What the hell? You did the whole survey. Is there any, like, are there any numbers or any research, or I can't phrase it because my brain is dead.
What's
But-
the data on this?
Yeah, do you have any data on
Can you give us a
adult
report? What's
Why
the
didn't you
anti-weather
give me
report like?
information on minors, because that was just an ethics thing that I did in my training. So like, I don't. You can survey minors, but you have to have guardian consent in order to do so. And where I wasn't working through my institutional review board on my most recent surveys, I was like, I'm gonna stick with adults. Filthy rabid porn eaters.
We need this on a sticker.
I'm sorry. But the data, which part of the data were you looking for? The data on
On the adults, or is there, if there's any?
So we have only
I don't
adults because
know.
you can't study children.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't. I didn't want to dive into that because I was doing this as an individual project. So I was like, in my area, we're just gonna say 18 plus. I did get some minors who would just fill it out because it's Google Forms. I can't, technically keep them from doing it. But what I do is I just, I literally redact that information.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I either I delete it. I keep it locked. I don't let people's information get out. But in terms of adult data, I mean, like, are we talking about which? Ask me a question about what you want to know from the data, and I'll see if I have it.
I don't. It's so hard to phrase. It's essentially just like, I mean, is there a difference in how these conversations are had, or because I feel like if you are an anti, the discourse is pretty much the same whether you are a minor or an adult. You don't want to listen to reason. You're just like, oh, problematic height difference, problematic age gap, problematic.
Problematic items.
The problematic height difference is real, okay? I've seen it. And I'm like,
I have a friend who's half Thai, and I remember we had one conversation a long time ago about, they're very short, um, and but they're my age, and I know there was one person who they had had the experience of saying, they were child coded, and they were just
yeah.
like, fuck off.
Yeah, I've seen that. I have a mutual on Twitter who is I think in late 20s, early 30s, who has an OnlyFans and all of this stuff, and a really cutesy style, and they're super short, and they're being told all the time, oh, you're pedobait, oh,
Oh
you're
God.
child coded, and they're like, what am I gonna do? This is my body, like, I am a whole ass adult. It's yeah.
Sorry, I have a
You know
cat who's
what?
trying to
I
climb
have
into my
heard
lap.
that when it comes to like shorter individuals. Like, I guess because I have like a fat ass and giant tits, no one has called me like pedo bait. Yes, Ari, can I help you?
Sorry. I'm laughing because it's attractive. I'm
So
one
I
of those
haven't.
people who's like, someone will be like, here are wonderful defining features, and I start giggling like I'm 13 finding
Oh,
porn.
that's cute. That's cute.
Like I don't get that because I am, as the children say, thick. Uh,
Thick is wonderful. Yeah, I don't
it's
get that because I'm 5'5", so I'm just.
I'm 5'1".
And
I'm
I
pocket sized.
am the metric system, so
Oh yeah, well,
Wow.
what are you? I know the metric system fairly well.
I have Google.
167
So you're right
centimeters.
over 5'5". I think 5'5" is 165-ish. Is that
How are
right?
you taller than me?
No, listen, that's a thing. I don't want to generalize, but my Norwegian side of my family, they are giants.
But
All of
I'm
them. My
What the
sister's five
fuck?
but
seven.
I'm
Everybody's
short.
really tall in my family. I'm the
I'm
short
sh-
one.
I'm
How
shorter
did
than
that happen?
everyone. But then I stopped growing when I was 12, and it was a very awkward phase because I was this size, I was this height, but I was really skinny, and it not a good time. I
How did
looked
this
I
happen?
looked so awkward. It was horrible.
You've been taller than me this entire time?
I thought we knew this,
Ah!
but I don't think it's by much.
It's
Or
like 3 inches.
I don't know. But then I wear I wear these shoes. I wear like platform shoes, like creeper shoes. And every time I tell someone that I'm short, they're like, "Oh, you're not that short." And I take the shoes off and I shrink by this much, and they all go, "Oh." It's the funniest thing.
I feel so small.
It's okay. Small
I
is
feel
good.
so
Tall
small.
is good. It's all
Pocket
good.
sized. You said it yourself. You're pocket sized. That's cute.
You know what? God couldn't make me much taller. I'd be too powerful. I'd be a
Yeah,
fucking
exactly.
dictator or
There's
something.
a reason. Like you had to be contained.
Yeah, I am a melting, seething ball of rage. I could not be taller. If I could reach paper towels on my own, nah, man, I'm taking over
I
the
mean, you
world.
said you're a
Yeah.
gremlin, so I mean, like, you have to. You're gremlin
Yeah.
sized.
Right, like if I could reach paper towels on my own, nah, fam, it's over. It's over for all of existence. But like that's just true. But yeah, like I do think that there's something interesting to, you know what? Why don't we do this? How about we share some of that survey data that you do have available when you have time? That way, our listeners can also avail themselves to the knowledge. I don't know
Yeah,
why
I
I
mean,
did
a
like the
lot of
gay
the
hand thing.
information. a lot of the information from the first round of surveys.
Mm-hmm.
The second one I'm still like staring at because I've taken on all these other projects, but the
Living
second
in
one was more
same.
numbers based. But I had less responses, so I mean, it's a hit or a miss. But let me talk about the survey and what
Yeah, I
it
was about to say,
means.
But question,
please
quick,
point
quick,
that out. Yes.
quick
Oh wait,
question
sorry.
before I forget. If we filled out the survey before, can we fill out the second one?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah, because it's
I'll
by year. It's just
then I
annual.
will. I will.
Yeah, no,
I
please.
also
It's
will. And
on
I will encourage
blfanproject.com.
our and I will encourage our fan base to do so as well
Yeah,
because we stan BL scholarship and critical thinking.
absolutely.
Yay, thank you. Yeah, I mean, the second one, it's just be an annual thing. They have sort of different purposes. The first version of the survey was really qualitative. It really was
Mm-hmm.
about interviews, getting long form answers from people, sharing sort of testimonials,
Mm-hmm.
quotes. And the point of it, was to share experiences. The second
Mm-hmm.
one, which was for 2021, but I'm sort of extending it into 2022. And again, you can find the
Mm-hmm.
survey on blfanproject.com. You'll see the
Mm-hmm.
links, it's pinned, it's right there. You'll also see all the little quotes from the previous survey. This one was supposed to be more about numbers, and I had some specific questions around shipping. But the thing is that let's talk about how the survey actually works. The
Mm-hmm.
survey is circulated through social media, which means it's really going to be a snowball sample. So it's really going to be a
Mm-hmm.
reflection of how far my network can reach. So Corolla mentioned before, sort of the what are the how do people have discussions, maybe in
Mm-hmm.
the anti realm or in the adult realm, or how are people having these discussions? The thing is majority practically
Mm-hmm.
all of the survey participants in the first version were all what you would call pro shipper esque. They
Mm-hmm.
were ship and let
Mm-hmm.
ship for the most part. They were people who have been attacked or harassed
Mm-hmm.
or received
Mm-hmm.
some sort of negative attention online because of their shipping. I mean, they
Mm-hmm.
had a really common factor between all of them. So that really tells you that, yes, this is really a snowball sample. The people who took this survey, and so a snowball sample means, again, it just direct reach of my network. It means that the
Mm-hmm.
way that which I'm circulating this, which oftentimes snowball refers to on social media, but it can be other places as well, other
Mm-hmm.
ways of circulation. When I'm sharing this, it means that as far as my social media network reach, as far as that reaches, that's about as far as a survey will get. It's not going to be it's not going to be something applicable to the entire shipping or non-shipping or anime population. It's really just
Right.
reflective of who my audience is and how far my
Mm-hmm.
audience can reach. And I know I've said that a billion times, but so it's interesting, it's insightful, but it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't really give us a look at people who may be on the fence, who aren't pro ship, or and certainly not younger than 18. It's not going to give us a view of the younger than 18 shippers. So it's really just adult, sort of pro shipping esque people, oftentimes queer, who
Mm-hmm.
have received some sort of negative attention. So that's very telltale of my audience and then my network reach
Yeah.
as well. So who my tweets really truly reach. Um, so, I mean, it was interesting. It was very important to see. It's important to see that hundreds of people all around the world, which is what I got in the first survey,
Mm-hmm.
in places, actually, I did get a country I had not heard of. So, I mean, that's, I'd have to look it back
That's
up. But,
always a
like,
good sign.
yeah, I know. So it
Yeah.
reached a lot of people, which was wonderful. And they shared their stories, and there are things
Mm-hmm.
to be learned from it. Um, the most interesting one that I didn't think about being from the US was the economic difference in
Mm.
experience for a lot of people in
Mm-hmm.
different countries, particularly fans out of Brazil. We're talking about what access they do have to BL,
Oh
how
wow.
expensive it is. That was really important information that came out of it, and something I started highlighting that came out of the survey was that economic experience. Then, of course, I highlight people from certain countries where anything queer is not allowed,
Yeah.
or almost sort of dangerous in some places. I highlighted those experiences, and then of course I highlight experiences like ours, people who said,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm queer and I've been misgendered so many times because I read BL. So it really was about sharing experiences. That was the first one.
Right.
The second one, again, I haven't gathered all the data yet, just because I didn't get as many responses. It was more
Mm-hmm.
numbers based, and I tried to make it shorter, so it was a shorter survey experience, not so much, spending an hour writing essays. Um, easier for people to
Mm.
participate in, but
Right.
again, not as many. So I'll probably extend it. I called it the 2021 survey. I'll probably call it the 21-22 survey and let it expand over 2 years, because I did get
Mm.
busy with other stuff, but
And that is
we'll see what
totally
this one looks
fine.
like. Yeah.
Yeah. But do you think I mean, maybe this is kind of self-explanatory because it is a BL fan survey. But of course, there are people who read BL who, gatekeep, who are like, oh, you can only read BL if you belong to X group, for instance.
Hmm.
Do you think that maybe because, I don't know, maybe this is just the perception I have, because I followed you on Twitter on both my accounts for a long time, and you're
Mm-hmm.
such an important voice, and but you're also someone who's very you're very visible in these spaces, and for talking sensical about this, and taking on these discussions, and
Mm-hmm.
busting these myths essentially. But a lot of people, like we've talked about, they just won't take these facts. They just won't accept it because they don't want to do the research and look into the links and see why
Mm-hmm.
where they're coming from is wrong. Do you think that there are people who are actively avoiding, for instance, participating because they are essentially against you and your standpoint?
Oh, I'm sure there are people who don't want to take the survey because they don't agree with
Yeah.
BL, or they don't they're I imagine that they're oftentimes the types who are like dirty fujos.
Mm.
But I don't think that I'm
My favorite type of
necessarily
person.
reaching them, because I've blocked a lot of people
Yeah, that
initially
too.
who
Mm-hmm.
essentially found me over the years, who would just come in and you know eh, get very hostile in my
Mm.
Right.
comments, and I didn't even know who they were or why they were there, and um I've also evolved as a person, trying to not be so argumentative and not be like, you know what, you can fuck off, which would be a boundary technically. So you could
Yeah.
actually see me
Nope.
that way and it'd be
I'm still
okay.
ready to fight anyone. Come at me.
But
But yeah.
I I've blocked a lot of people because ultimately I sort of came to a point where I saw a lot of these people who were coming into my comments were minors, who
Mm.
Yeah.
generally belong to other minor based communities, where they would sit around and mm, dirty, like they would just rant about, people who did ship or liked BL or anything of that nature. So I
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of people blocked. So I imagine my survey probably didn't reach many of those people. I think I got one survey participant in that first survey who seemed like they might be one of those people, because they mentioned fetishizing.
Mm.
And and I
That's
was
the
kind of
dead
like,
giveaway. That's always the
okay,
giveaway.
well, you're a minor anyway, so I can't use your information, so it's redacted. But like,
Yeah.
um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Because
think it
like
really reaches them. But if obviously there are going to be people who don't agree with my stance, but it would be entirely all speculation to determine why.
mm.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're heavily triggered. Maybe
Yeah.
they really just they might be heavily triggered. There are some, not all. There are some people who are heavily triggered. I'm not going to force them to,
No,
get
of
into
course not.
my content. Then there's people who don't want to see what I'm saying. People who with
Mm.
very, very strong, different perspectives. And
Mm-hmm.
um, there's not there's nothing I can really do about those people. The
No.
information is there. I cannot force someone to learn, just like you can't force a horse to drink if you lead it to water.
Yeah.
It's is a quote. You can't
All of the
force them to
South just
learn.
came out. Every ounce of South just left your body.
If I drink, which I don't, but if I drink, I get really southern. Or if I hear somebody speaking, like even like Texan accents will set me off. Louisiana accents will set
It's
me
a
off,
good
and then
thing
you
I
start
lack
hearing
an
like the Georgia
identifiable
accent.
accent. Yeah, that is one thing I've always been praised for, is that I very much lack an identifiable accent.
Yeah, no, I do too at this point because I was an English second language teacher for a bit. So I
Hmm.
went through English, and then I also did theater, and I also was in opera training when I was younger, and just like
Wow.
my parents wanted me to be a fine arts person, and I didn't after a while. I mean, like I love art, but like I don't know. Anyways,
My
But now you
family
are analyzing art. That's great.
yeah,
my
so like I've
family just
had
wanted me to be straight, and that failed horribly.
yeah, no, so I've had a lot of voice training, so I don't really have an identifiable accent, but I mean, when it slides out, it slides out. But there are some words I still say very southern. So when I lived in Boston, they were like, "Whoa, you're from the South," and I'm like, "Wait, what do you mean? I don't really have an accent." They said, "No, but you said naked, not naked." That's the one word I can't change. The one word I have never been able to change is naked. I say
I
naked.
Not
love that.
not the Minnesota. Oh my god.
What is a
Yeah, so
Minnesota accent? I need to
Oh my
know
god,
because
yeah.
it's
all
very
the
soft.
that's where all the Scandinavians went.
It's very
Yes,
soft,
it
and
is.
it
Well,
sounds
except
like
for a few that went
someone's.
down to Georgia, which is where mine landed, apparently.
That's interesting.
I know.
I also
Choices.
love approaching it like where yours landed. Like it was like either some kind of like alien UFO crash, or
I
like
mean, they're
I
kind of
mean,
horrible people, so I'm gonna call them aliens.
uh,
That
but
side of my family is not very nice. So
it's really funny because like yeah, like I used to voice act. Shockingly, started out as Yuki Airy in a bunch of fan dubs.
oh
Uh,
my god, please,
it's coming
yeah,
please,
out.
let me
It's
just see
all
this.
coming out.
I used to fan dub Yuki Airy a lot when I was in high school.
Oh, that's
Uh,
amazing.
I
I just
know,
can't get
right?
over that you guys had your own fandoms. Like,
When Crunchyroll used to be a pirating website,
this is
we
true.
Mm-hmm.
were the kings.
Yeah.
Because,
Oh,
Crunchyroll is not always a legal
nostalgia.
website. Nostalgia.
I just
Remember, remember
you miss some
AMVs?
things and you don't miss some things. Like you don't miss the aggravation of typically nerd guys being like, "Why does it always have to be gay?"
But
Well,
I don't know.
Every
I
day is
don't
gay in
miss
my
that
gay
because
chat.
they didn't go away.
I know they
They,
didn't go away.
they
We should
didn't
have better
leave.
fences.
And what I will say though is the one thing that I am shocked is still a thing, like especially as like nerd stuff really became mainstream, are especially as an African American female presenting person,
Hmm.
are the people that still think that I'm a part of some long con, that I'm not really a fan, that I'm just doing this for
Of
clout and for
course.
attention.
Like, is
And
you're just out there breaking your back with all these podcasts and making all this merch and doing the cons and everything because you just
You read the jerk off into a bucket fic. You're a real
yeah.
fan.
And the death by dragon fucking like.
You need Bad Dragon should sponsor this podcast.
You know,
I'm gonna say it here.
I'm really excited because considering what we're going to talk about next month, I'm like, how are you going to top the fix you've already talked about? Like, I'm mildly frightened. I'm mildly
Challenge
terrified.
accepted.
I was actually reading fanfic before I got on, because I had that moment where like I had gotten out of the shower and I wasn't quite fully dressed, and I was just like alone
Sexy.
vibing in the universe. I mean, no, I was reading Omega Verse. It was the opposite of sexy. And I was just like,
I mean, I'm
I
sorry,
was
but
reading Omega Verse. It's the opposite of sexy.
I'm coming from, a place on the earth where it's like, what, you can walk around half naked out of the shower? Because, like, you have to, like, I have to bundle up immediately or I'll die.
Yeah,
So,
no, I
No.
can't do it. I get really cold really fast.
yeah. Like, leaving the shower should be illegal.
Yeah,
Yes,
having
I hate
having
that part.
insulating layers of fat really helps. I'm like a seal. Just I was good. I'm like a seal. I'm
We just need
prepared
to
for
have
the
now, okay, more merch. Seal, head popping out of the water going, yowie.
So I was
Yowie
reading
seal. You're the
I was
you're the gay
reading
seal.
Airy,
You're the one who
airy
goes,
seal.
oh
yeah.
my god. I was reading Omegaverse fanfic before I got on, and my wellness app was like, read something relaxing before bed. It's like, if I read Dobby Hawks, but Hawks has a pussy, is that relaxing?
I think it could be.
I think it's very relaxing.
I mean, yeah, like people, sexy things are supposed to end up helping you relax,
Oh, this is true.
potentially. I mean, that was. There's
It was just
stimulation at first. I'm thinking about a psychology design experiment that I saw in my
mhm.
PhD program. Like, there's stimulation at first, but then it's supposed to be a relaxing after effect. So, I mean,
But
technically, yes.
I guess it depends though, because if you're left with like like a relentless hard on, that's not helping anyone.
I
Yeah,
don't
no,
get
that's definitely not
easily.
You
gonna help.
don't get the relaxation if you I don't
So
know.
fun fact about me, and I don't know if this is true for like every smut writer. I'm very rarely aroused by smut like that because to me, sex is basically like a tennis match. It's like, oh yes, good move. Like I see what you did there. You
Oh
set
my
up.
god,
You had like
Wimbledon.
yeah, you had
Oh
like
yes, cut,
Chekhov's
cut, cut, cut.
penis.
Good move,
Good
good move.
move. It's like, oh yes, you set up that this guy was going to be against a wall in the first part, and now he's against the wall.
You're just a
Excellent work.
connoisseur. You're just like
Yeah,
Oh
you're
my
like
just
it's just
judging.
yeah, like it's just
No,
it really is like watching a tennis match. It's like over the fence,
but
over the
I
net.
get what you're saying. Like I absolutely can find it sexy and appealing. But then again, I think I've said this before because I watch I don't necessarily do it a lot now, but then again I don't write a lot at the moment. But I will watch, or at least I used to watch a lot of JGV for
Oh god.
Japanese gay video for
We know what it
relax,
is.
for yeah, in case the audience don't know, okay.
They
Oh, I
know.
have a story about this. But for another time. But I will watch these, for just for relaxing and for, what do you call it, like research, right? So for instance, how, it's hard to describe where are all the limbs going, and I don't know where that leg went, so it's nice to see sometimes. You can look at the screen and then you can kind of mirror it in the writing. And we have a projector. This is the only screen. We have a projector, so I'll watch this on the screen that covers the entire wall, and I'm like eating potato chips watching JGV, and my girlfriend's like, do you have to do this?
Oh
I'm
my
like,
So
god.
yes, it's necessary.
I don't know if this is the part where I should mention that when I lived in Tokyo at one point, my neighbor was an actor for JGV.
Do you know who it was?
I mean, I know who. I don't want to say.
You have to tell me in private. I need to know because here's
It's a part
okay.
of
Because I will have to. Then I have to tell my story. Okay, because when we were in Japan in 2013, this was the wildest thing. Because we're walking down Takeshita-dori, and there's like this. There's like a small, like very small shop on like the side by a crossing, and we're walking around. So it's me and my girlfriend and a friend of ours, and I'm talking to my friend. I'm looking to the other side of the street, and my girlfriend's taking pictures. So she's walking down, and there's this guy standing outside one of the shops with like one of these limited time sales things, like they do. And she's like, how do you ask for photos again? And I tell her, and she asks this guy for a photo. He poses. We move on, and then we come home, and it's been like a month, and we're showing all our friends the photos, and then we get to the photo of this guy standing outside of this shop, and one of my straight male friends looks at the picture, looks at me, and then he goes, but that's one of your porn actors. And I was like, oh my god, you're right. So apparently he had a side gig in a shop in Harajuku, and
Yeah.
we passed him. And I had no idea, and I was like, how did I
Super
not see
common.
this? Oh, it was horrible.
Yeah, side
I
gigs
mean-
were super common. I heard for
Yeah.
a lot of them.
I mean, good for him that I didn't recognize, because that would have been awkward, but
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you're walking downtown and you're like, oh, porn actor. No, like they're
No.
just like,
Like,
your typical
don't wanna-
dudes and yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
the
you
guy.
don't wanna-
I know he didn't live with his boyfriend yet. That was his old apartment. He actually eventually moved in with his boyfriend, but like, and that was
Oh,
a
that's
different area. But like, he was always very friendly to me. Like, he helped me figure out my recycling one day.
oh my god, I'm gonna go in your DMs later and be like,
I know.
Tell me
I'll tell you all
everything.
later. But like, yeah, I don't like to
I
mention
love
it because I
that.
think he was fairly big. I found out when I got back to the U.S. and I was just like, oh, now I know.
but it's like,
That's
it's like one of those things.
fantastic.
you know how people are like, oh, I'm gonna go to Japan, and you know, they think all their idols are gonna be walking around or whatever, but then actually they're just all JJV actors who are just
There's a
free
lot of people
everywhere.
who get started in the porn industry in Japan.
Yeah.
That's true. They really
Yeah.
that's
That is
adult
100% true.
entertainment is sort of the place to get started there for a lot of people.
It's so funny to me because like I had this like weird relationship, like especially like with Boys Love, where like there was a huge disconnect of it being like pornography for the longest time, which like goes back into the whole like, oh, I was definitely one of those Fujos back in the day where like you're just throwing Boys Love manga at your straight friends and like demanding that they
Yeah.
look at the pixel like look at this butthole, and it's like, oh, that was bad, we shouldn't have been doing that. But you know, definitely was one of those kids who did that. But like I didn't really. I had this moment like a few years ago where I got my hands on the Maiden Rose OVA, and it wasn't until I started like listening to it because I really didn't watch a lot of like explicit BL anime just because like it was
But
really
there
hard to get in the
was none.
US. Yeah, well, like because it was really really hard to get a hold of in the US. Firstly, and secondly, like it was not really on my radar. But I was watching that and like the squelching noises and the moaning and the sound of bed creaking, and I'm like, I'm in my shitty studio apartment with my bed facing the television, like knees to my chest, just like, oh, this is porn.
Hmm.
Like this is porn. Like this is.
But I know, and it's like on one hand I am so acutely aware, but then it's also like, you know, you've read so much
Oh,
BL,
that
you
sounds
just
lovely.
It's so cute. I love that.
oh, you're so, you know, you get so used to it that you're just like reading it, you don't, and you're you know, like you said earlier, you're like criticizing it or being like, oh, I really love it when they do it like that, or you
Yeah,
know, you're
and
kind
like
of, because it's like it's on a completely different plane at this point. Like I've been enjoying
yeah,
this for, I don't know, almost 20 years. Like yes, it's porn, but there's
It's
more.
but
different
like
because there's a lack of I'll say this. There's a lack of objectification in some of the porn, more
Yeah.
commonly in Japanese porn.
but
Gay porn.
also
I
like to
can't
make
say for
but to
this.
make it like the topic a little bit again, you know, as we kind of go into hour two and probably start wrapping up in a little bit.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
yeah.
One of the things that I noticed about it also, especially with Maiden Rose, a lot of the scenes early on are forced. They're
Hmm.
non-con. So I felt Taki saying no, no, no very differently as reading it than I did hearing someone repeatedly say no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This
So
is
like
why
for
I never enjoyed Maiden Rose.
I think it's still framed beautifully. Like Klaus is never rewarded for being a bad person. He's actually very, very frequently reprimanded,
Yeah.
and at least in the manga, there's a little bit more context as
Yeah,
to
exactly.
why.
Cuz I've
Uh,
never read it. I've only watched the OVA, and you know that's completely different.
it's not completely, but it definitely does have some pacing issues. But like that was a completely different experience for me. Like I still knew that it was bad in
Mm.
print, but it like felt extra bad hearing someone repeatedly say no and be like
Yeah.
ignored. That was
Yeah.
rough for me in a way that I wasn't expecting. And I wonder also like if that might be part of the disconnect that a lot of us have between like uh BL
Look
in
at
that way and
Banana
fan
Fish.
fiction.
Banana Fish was a
Yeah.
truly traumatic story, and
Oh
like
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I it's like love that exists through an entire story of trauma. And
Mm-hmm.
the manga, I've finished the whole thing. I read it, but I stopped halfway through the animation because I couldn't, because when one of my favorite characters dies,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
halfway through I was done. I was like, no, I can't do this. It's very different when it's animated.
It's so hard to
Yeah.
watch. I watched
It is really
yeah.
different when it's animated. Go ahead.
I watched it first and then I read the manga because I was missing some volumes. So I was just like collecting the volumes and then I watched the series and then I read it
Mm-hmm.
and I was just, you know, re-traumatized all over again because I realized how well they had adapted it because it's
Yeah, they
essentially
did
like
really a good
it's
job.
so well done, but it was so traumatic because it was like, oh, I just healed, so now I'm gonna put myself through this and you know, and now I have their voices in the back of my head, so it's just.
Yeah, the
And then I listened to
suffering,
the
the
audio
voices,
drama,
like
which was
yeah, when someone is dying, then I can just flip the page really fast. I can just sort of
yeah.
gloss over it. But when
Mm-hmm.
it's like, elongated 5 to 10 minutes of a whole episode of the
Mhm.
screaming and the torment, and it's just
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna be traumatized forever. Like, it's no wonder I didn't finish the anime. I just
No,
couldn't. I was like, I can't do it. I
it's
can't.
a
If
hard,
this hurt
yeah.
me, then I can't do the rest.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I think also that separation of it being like pornography is a huge aspect of it that like I don't think realistically we talk about enough because like that is something that in this whole like pro ship anti ship thing that probably doesn't get talked about enough. Like it is so like there was a writer that I follow and like they write a lot of like erotic fiction and stuff like that, and it's like, oh my god, I would never read this. And then it's like, oh, but I have, but with anime boys.
Mm.
Like, it's like I used to be one of those people that was like super harshly judgy about like Omega Verse stuff when it first started coming out. And now I'm one of those people who reads it and I'm not turned on by it, but I'm definitely if it's the right writer on the right day, I can stomach it a little bit
Mm.
easier. Like I'm very rarely seeking it out, but like if it happens to be there, I'm less likely to just like
Yeah.
but it's
But it's
like
like, yeah.
yes,
No, go on, just finish.
like it does feel like I think that sort of disconnect of what it is I think also definitely doesn't help because like so I know one of the huge reasons I'm not a massive fan of like actual humans in porn is that like that bothers me. I'm concerned
Yeah.
about agency.
Yeah.
It looks like most of those women don't want to be there. I am concerned about is this person a secret minor? Like all those
Yeah.
things that antis have been yelling at, I have that problem with real people.
Exactly. But they're real people.
But but they are real
Yeah.
people in my
But
yes.
yeah, and now you sort of brought it all back because when you
Mm-hmm.
talk about you talk about listening, and
Mm-hmm.
hearing the voices, and I listen to a lot of audio drama CDs, and it's the
Mm-hmm.
same thing, because there's so much of it that is non-con or dub-con, where it's like, I love audio drama, but I like enthusiastic consent, and there's such a huge difference between,
Yeah.
when a no means no, and when it's just like, oh, I'm just being coy, like, no,
Well, that's a
and
huge dynamic in Japan heterosexual pornography as well. Is it's
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
a very popular dynamic. The no, 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 yes.
yeah, exactly.
It's a very
Uh,
popular dynamic in high school boys that don't listen to women.
and romantic
Mm.
comedies where, stalking and all of these things.
And
Oh
in
yeah.
frat boys and college boys. It's a popular trope in men.
Yeah.
And some homosexuals.
And society being all, and I've said this because I think it's really interesting how, actually it's not interesting, it's infuriating, how you have the entirety of, someone's entire childhood is just like, oh, boys will be boys, and they pull your hair because they like you, and they push you because they like you, and do this, blah blah blah, and then they're 18, and all of a sudden this type of behavior is supposed to have consequences. How are they going to
Yeah.
understand that? They've never had a consequence in their life because that's just what you do. So it's a societal thing.
A whole nother discussion of gendered socialization and the
Yeah,
ramifications.
absolutely.
Let's see, this might be a bit of a U turn, but does this anti shipper discourse warfare happen to the same degree in Yuri fandom?
Not
Um,
as much, I don't think. No.
yeah, I haven't
No,
seen it, but I also think a
I'm not
lot
an
of that.
expert on Yuri.
I also think a lot of that also comes down to, honestly, I think it's audience. While I am aware that there are a lot of women and non binary people that watch Yuri, that is still a predominantly male perceived genre.
Yeah.
And
But
remember, antis aren't mad at men, they're mad at queer people, and they're mostly mad at women.
Yeah, but if
listen, that's.
you
Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say the response from aunties generally are, you've all heard the, well, women should watch lesbian porn and men should watch gay porn. I'm like, but there isn't any non-binary genderless porn. So what the do you want us to
Yeah,
do? Like, but like that just I know I think I've been around the Yuri realm a lot as well, but like I know they have some of their own sort of stuff going on, but it's nothing like this.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which
I
again, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
I want to say, if you want to know more about that, I definitely suggest looking into Erica Friedman and
Yeah.
Okazu Yuri because she does a lot of stuff on this.
Also, Holy
And
Yuri Mother has all
yeah,
the recommendations.
absolutely.
It's a prominent trope in men. It is. It's a prominent trope
It's
in
one of my
men.
least favorite tropes.
It's
I don't
it's
want to.
absolutely one of my least favorite tropes in men is the no,
Yeah.
no, yes.
Yeah,
That's
but going back to that in audio dramas, for instance, it's like it's one of those things again because you come across it so frequently, and I nope out of there. You know, like in some cases, I will listen through and see if it gets better and just like skip that part. You know, if I'm so inclined. But again, it's about it's about managing what you expose yourself to and knowing your boundaries because fetishes exist and kinks exist and it's okay to be into these things, but if you're not, that's also okay. And if you and as long as you understand that, if you are with a partner in real life and they say no, you should stop and be like, okay, confirm that, we shouldn't go further, we shouldn't be doing this. But if it's, because if you're listening to something or watching something and it's part, it's again, you can do two things at the same time. You can think critically while also enjoying the thing or not enjoying the thing. It's your choice, and you can nope out of
yeah.
there.
I think that
I
that's
just saw the
really
semi non-binary ceiling comment. I'm loving
Where?
it.
I mean, have we? I don't know if we have.
I
I
I
don't
hope
don't
that
think
know.
we
so.
do.
Wait.
I mean, like, you have nuance. You have characters with that presence that feels very non-binary, but nothing, you know, um, said explicitly.
Uh-huh. Sorry, late to this. There's a raging "What do women get out of writing MLM fiction?" on Twitter. Oh,
Let's talk about it.
Right now,
oh. Well
someone
then,
go to Twitter and
no,
find
we're not
out.
supposed to. We're not supposed to ask for violence. Remember, we're influencers.
Oh yeah, right.
We're not supposed
We're
to.
info.
We're influencers.
Okay.
Uh, But yeah, so I love that comment, and I think that there's a discussion about gender and boys' love that I think we might need to have Ari back on to talk about later,
Yeah,
because
maybe.
I'm
the
always here. Like, if I'm
We're
not
just gonna
VTubing or
keep,
writing
just
my
like,
book or anything else at this point, then I'll be here to talk
because
if
I
y'all want me.
definitely think like I really would love to discuss that pipeline of Red BL as a young person ended up some flavor of
yeah.
It's
ended up
true.
some
It's
flavor of non-binary, gender non-conforming.
yeah.
I would love to discuss that pipeline. I because it's a very obvious pipeline, especially here in the West. It is a very obvious pipeline.
Yeah, and we do
That
have we do have a plan to talk about BL and
we do.
identity, so we can kind
We
of
do.
bake it in.
We do. Oh, so
I
damn,
I'm
this
have
intrigued.
actually I'll
conversation is
say
fire.
I know it's a
Yes.
lot of digging. I'm so sorry. But on my pinned thread, I actually have
Mm-hmm.
another thread about that specific topic
Oh,
about
nice.
women, sexual expression, and male
Mm-hmm.
male.
I think I responded to that one. I'm about 99% sure that I did. Uh,
Probably. It's in there. It's pretty prominent. I'm pretty sure it has a cap on it, screen caps of various
mhm.
journals, articles that
Yeah, I
talk
think
about
I was a
sexual
part of
expression
that. I
of
think that
women.
was actually my first introduction to you. Was I saw
Eh.
that and was
It's I
like,
don't want to like I don't want to have to redo that thread and clean it out and I like at the same time
mhm.
I want to because I'm such an organizing kind of person, but I'm like, no, I'll just leave it. People can dig. Sorry.
No, I totally get it. I
We're good
totally
at
get it.
digging, though. I mean,
I know
We
honestly.
are.
we're little moles. We'll dig.
Yeah.
We are. So as we kind of wrap this up, we'll probably wrap up at the half hour. Do you guys have any last questions, comments, concerns? I definitely loved this episode. I'm probably gonna cap working on the transcription today just because I have other things to do.
You need to
Uh,
rest.
I have 4 tabs with sticker designs that are open, and I might be able to eat lunch when we're done.
Please eat lunch.
Maybe my stomach
What
just
have
made a
I
noise.
said? Huh?
My
Huh?
stomach just made a noise, so I will
Yeah,
eat
you
after
see?
this.
Ah,
Yes,
Yeah.
I will eat after this. I have cake and I have bugles in front of me.
oh,
Um,
Good.
food sounds
Oh,
really good. I
bugles
might
are
do that
good.
too.
Bugles are so fucking good. But yeah, if you guys have, I think people leave the p word out totally. Power. Oh, I mean they do, but like it's because they don't want to talk about that. They also don't like talking about agency, which is a whole other conversation that I'm frustrated with.
Is that
Like
in
the way
reference to the women in male porn?
I believe so, yes.
Oh, okay.
Uh, but like I think also like just agency is one that really bothers me. Like that's one of my big things with the antis right now is that like yeah, back in the day we kind of like stumbled upon porn because like there wasn't really like any designations about this stuff. Like it just didn't exist. Like we did have like lemon, lime, citrus kind of stuff, but like if you didn't know what that was, you
I
were.
mean, you had to learn it somehow.
Mhm.
I mean, one of the most obvious things too is what's
No
available.
one likes talking about intersectionality,
No
but we
one
should
does.
talk.
I love intersectionality.
I love
I'll go in circles with
intersectionality.
intersectionality.
Yeah, let's talk about intersectionality all fucking day, but no one
That's how
wants to
long it
talk
takes.
about it. Yeah, that is approximately how long it takes.
But I mean,
Uh,
yeah, I mean, like, there's also like what's available in terms of
Mm.
like women uh, going to male content because I mean, like that was really sort of available first before something else was. So I mean, before we started expanding and
mhm,
expressing and growing everything, that's
mhm,
part that's just one part of it. There's many parts of it, but the one thing I think of is availability because I know when you are in a situation where there's very little availability, you go with
mhm,
what you got
mhm.
and or you
Well,
make it
I also
yourself, which
think
is my case,
like
but
there is an important elephant in the room with this stuff, and it's internalized misogyny.
yeah,
It
that too.
Mhm.
was a lot easier for me to project sexually onto a man because men at least get to enjoy pleasure and sometimes are not always victims. Then it was easier for me to project onto a woman who is usually victimized, very rarely got to experience pleasure, and if she did experience pleasure, it was usually forced out of her. So it would also just ended up being gender non-binary and gender
That
Yeah.
fluid.
too.
I didn't project onto women's pleasure the same way that I projected onto that a dick. Projected a lot easier onto that. Huh, spoiler alert, ended up being gender fluid. So I think there's a lot of aspects of it that get flattened in this narrative of, oh, well, women don't belong here, women don't do this, blah, blah, blah.
It's very
Everything is the
binary,
same.
isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so, everything is so binary and it's so exhausting. And also, just like, there's no nuance in these conversations, and we've
No.
like beaten
They're
nuance
not
out of
really
it.
intending it to be nuanced though. They're sitting there expecting you to adhere to their thinking.
Exactly. Yeah.
They're there to
This is
convince
also
you. They're
true.
there to beat you into it. Basically, they're not there to have a nuanced conversation. That's usually 99% of the time what's happening.
This is not false. So gender essentialism.
Yes.
Oh, gender essentialism. I hate it
Oh,
so
I
much.
could go on all day about that.
I feel like we could, but as we mentioned, lunch is a thing, and it
Lunch
has
is a
been two
thing.
hours. So
One day you should have a subathon. I know that's a very VTubing concept in Twitch, but I'm just like, just have a Patreon follow
Oh
subathon
my
where
god.
you take breaks for eating and sleeping because I believe that should be a thing. I don't think you should go
yes,
Are
actually
you
24
sure?
hours, but like you should totally have a subathon where we just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk.
I would. You know what? Let's try to get something like that on the books. Because Corolla and I both
See
have
what you
birthdays in
did?
the same month.
What?
Corolla and I both have birthdays in the same month, so
When's your birthday?
Yeah. July 7th.
Oh, you're
July
both July.
18th.
Everybody I know is July. Everyone I know
Because
What?
is
it's
July. My partner's
When's
also July.
yours?
My best friends have been July. Everybody's July.
And you were
yeah. When's
in
I'm October. I'm October
October.
22nd.
oh my parents are October.
Hey.
Halloween month. My parents.
Huh.
No, wait. Yes? I'm
Math.
confused. No, they're both November. I'm sorry.
I loved that moment of like math. It's like whatever. But
But I
I
can't do math. I'm not good.
yeah, we're bi and pan. We can't do math. We're not allowed to do numbers.
Everybody's
True,
getting
true,
busy
true.
in winter. That's true.
That's true. But I had a great time with Aria as always. Like
Oh,
Aria,
yeah.
you are an absolute light in this community. You are a brilliant thinker, and we are so grateful for your
You're
contributions
so
into this
nice.
space. Well, because
I
like
just
you
think
deserve
it's
it.
Yeah, and I think it's so cool that you actually want to come and hang out with us and just like rant with us for I mean you bring actual facts to the table
Yeah, we're over
and
here just complaining,
I'm angry and angry and logical.
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like I'm over here just like flexing all the LEDs I have around my apartment. You actually bring like research and logic and facts and stuff. I'm over here just like trying to scoop angles so you can see all the LEDs and shit.
The LEDs are
Like
nice.
I
Yeah.
love them. Like I guess this is what men think when they're like, "Oh, she's in a long con." I just want LEDs all over everything. I just want everything to be RGB. I just want I want the artifice of being an e-girl without being an e-girl.
I'm too
There's
old to
a whole new
understand the
movement too that I've
concept of
discovered in
e-girl.
VTubing where like you don't have to be the e-girl, you just look like one, but you totally just be yourself and people bow down to you. Could rock it.
You know, I feel like yeah, I do feel like I would make a very, very good e-girl for reasons I'm not legally allowed to talk about live. Uh, But I do feel like I'd make a very, very good e-girl slash VTuber, again, for reasons I'm not supposed to talk about on the internet. So,
How
Ari,
can it
where,
I'm sorry, but with all the things we're discussing here and
yes.
torso fucking notwithstanding, how bad is it for you not to be able to talk about it on the internet? I'm just
It's actually not that bad. I used to be a Dom.
I-
That's awesome. Good job.
Yeah.
again
I
too
like,
powerful.
Yeah, that's very
yeah.
powerful.
Also, men and their money. Mwah.
Yeah.
My
I
favorite
like
Yeah.
flavors.
I
money.
understand
I
that.
do, I do love
Money
male
buys
money.
BL.
Yeah.
I
Especially when you
like
don't have
money.
to do anything but be mean. Male money is my favorite flavor. Just very tasty. Uh, but Ari, where can the good people find you?
You can find me at Twitter, at underscore Queerioes. It's
Mm-hmm.
Queerioes.
Yeah,
Um,
I kept forgetting the E. And you never said anything, and then I felt like an idiot.
no, you're totally fine. I spelled it differently because somebody already had the name Queerios that's like not existent anymore. So
Yeah,
parameters. But so like
parameters.
yeah, so I have an E in mind. So like think Cheerios, but like with an E.
I think it's so cute.
Queerios.
Yeah, and I don't think that those were invented to keep people from masturbating. I don't remember.
No,
No, that
no.
was
Oh my
that was
god. So I took
cornflakes.
so many courses on this in undergrad. I actually
Yeah,
know the entire history of Kellogg and Graham and all of them.
I
yeah.
love
Like
that.
I don't think that those were invented to keep people from masturbating. I
No,
confirmed they were not.
no, no,
Also, he
no.
had a bunch of like eugenics saunas, but we're not going to talk about
Yes,
that because we're wrapping up the
he
show.
did.
Um, yeah, there were the eugenics saunas. You can find us all over the internet at the Yowie Shelf of Corolla. Where can people find you?
You find me on Instagram, Twitter, anything at Author Corolla.
You can
And
find
what
me in
about
most
you?
You can find me most places by my weeb name, Aichi Yume, and on my blog, amandaactually.com, because I paid for a fucking domain. Uh,
I
because
also
that is
have
what
a
your
domain.
patron. Well then.
Yeah.
That is what your Patreon money gives us. Speaking of, shout out to our patrons that allow us to get fucking rose gold crowns and LEDs and stuff like that. We have some cool stuff coming up on the pipeline, including possibly a subathon, where it's extended ranting between us and a genderless void. Uh, I'm sure there will be lots of cats. But next month, should we go ahead and tell our audience what we're doing next month?
Yes, let's.
Let's hear it.
We're gonna do some fan fiction sins. We're gonna talk about the things in fanfic that I don't want to quite say are guilty pleasures, but a little combination of things that we've been guilty of as writers and things that are things that we probably shouldn't read but keep reading, i.e., Death by Dragon fucking. Just kidding. I only read
Yes.
that once.
There's gonna be. No, I think you read it at least twice.
I have read it once.
So they just have
Yeah,
sponsorship.
there's gonna
I'll
be
have
guilt.
to I'll have to
There's
check
gonna be pleasure.
AO3, but I'm pretty sure it's just once.
I'm gonna have to do some actual reading. I haven't read fanfic in 50 years. I'll have to like.
I was
I
poking
read
at it again recently because I'm in the midst of writing and like fixing up a trilogy of books for young adults that I'm writing right now.
I
And
mean,
I
you
just
have to
like,
whore out that.
oh, I mean, I don't have an account for that or anything. I don't even have a title. I'm just sitting here outlining and writing, and I mean, all I can tell you is that it's a all women's boarding school.
Is it
I was about to
gay?
say,
It's
is it?
very gay. I don't. They're because they're all under 18. I don't have sex in it. That was just a choice I made.
I was
Because
about to say, is it an urban fantasy?
it's not actually. It's really based off of my experiences with boarding school and my all women's
Oh.
college that I went to. So I'm
You know
ready.
what?
I have a lot of
I
stories.
almost went to an all women's college. I almost went to Schreiner University here in Texas, and like all of their ads were like women on horseback and women just like laying in each other's laps in fields reading to each other. And I remember my aunt being like, "I am not sending you to school to be a lesbian."
That
Turns
my
out,
mother actually said that to me. I
yeah,
accepted to go to this university and I got a full scholarship and it was out of state from Georgia. It was in Virginia. And my mother was like, well, if you go, you're going to be a lesbian. I'm like, that ship has already sailed. Like,
yeah.
you missed it.
Turns out you send me to a Catholic college that's full of butch lesbians that think a very small brown femme is the bee's knees, and I come back a gender fluid raging bisexual.
There you go.
Everybody wins.
Yay!
So thank you
Yay!
guys for tuning in. We had a blast.
Yeah.
See you in the next one.
Thanks so much
Be
for
safe
hanging
out there.
out.
Yeah, don't dox people.
Don't
Yeah,
dox
please
people.
don't dox people.
Don't
Use
dox
boundaries.
people.
If
Have
you-
boundaries.
Yeah.
If you see something
Yeah.
you don't like, just click out and don't harass anyone.
Blocking
Right,
is a
like,
great
just-
thing.
Yeah, just mute and block. Just
Yep.
go. You know what? Also, I know the pandemic is still a thing, but like, go open a window, get some nice fresh air before you. Oh, okay, not you.
You have
You
snow.
stay
I mean, I have
inside.
some snow here as
No,
well,
no,
but
Yeah.
you stay inside.
It's okay.
Never mind.
It
Never
will
mind.
not
do
stop
it like a
snowing
polar
here.
bear dip. Just get a bit of fresh air and then run back inside.
Yeah.
Okay, we're nerds. I do not advocate for that because one of us is going to get hurt.
Okay, don't run.
Yeah, like I'm asthmatic and fat.
I
That's not
don't
going to go
run.
well for me.
Like, I just
Open a
don't.
window, take a deep breath, and then close the window.
Yeah.
Got it. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.